Imagine floating effortlessly above a world where the oceans are not on the surface, but buried securely under 100 kilometers of solid, unbreakable ice. This cosmic structure hides a subterranean saltwater sea so unimaginably vast that it holds more liquid than all the oceans of Earth combined. In the absolute lightless depths, unseen currents have been swirling in perfect, undisturbed darkness for billions of consecutive years. Picture the terrifying invisible forces at play as this icy sphere generates its own beating magnetic heart, violently clashing with the massive radiation storms of its planetary host. Surprisingly, this hidden dynamo creates ethereal ultraviolet auroras that dance continuously across the frozen poles in a silent, ghostly ballet. It is a stunning paradox of a celestial body trapped in eternal winter, yet actively humming with liquid fire and electrical energy at its very core. If we were to look closer at the surrounding heavens, we would witness a grand, clockwork mechanism where this giant is locked in a flawless mathematical dance with its sibling moons. Every sweeping movement is a calculated step in a celestial waltz that stretches the crust and warms the hidden waters from the inside out. This profound gravitational choreography ensures that the deepest mysteries of the moon are kept alive by the relentless rhythmic tug of its ancient cosmic family. Right now, you're safe, entirely removed from the crushing pressures and freezing voids of the deep outer solar system. As your breathing slows and your muscles sink heavily into the comfort of the mattress, the boundless mysteries of the night sky become a tranquil sanctuary for your wandering mind. These wonders are yours to inherit as you sleep, unfolding quietly behind your closed eyelids in a mesmerizing tapestry of starlight. Let the gentle, comforting pull of gravity anchor your resting body while your consciousness drifts effortlessly outward, crossing the immense, empty gulfs of interplanetary space. The hypnotic journey begins far beyond the warming, familiar rays of our sun, moving swiftly into a realm where ice behaves like solid rock and time slows to a glacial crawl. Deep within the cold, outer reaches of our solar system, a silent giant slumbers in the perpetual twilight. Deep within the cold, outer reaches of our solar system, a silent giant slumbers in the perpetual twilight. Orbiting the massive gas giant Jupiter, this majestic sphere commands a presence unlike any other satellite we have ever discovered. It holds the quiet, undisputed title of the largest moon in our entire cosmic neighborhood, floating gracefully through the dark vacuum of space. This colossal world is not merely a piece of debris caught in a gravitational web, but a fully realized celestial body with its own complex history and geology. Staring out into the endless black, it reigns supreme over a retinue of dozens of smaller Jovian moons, silently projecting its immense scale. Its sheer volume challenges our traditional understanding of what a moon can be, blurring the lines between satellite and planet. Surprisingly, the universe often hides its greatest marvels in the shadows, far from the warming embrace of a parent star. Here, suspended in a delicate gravitational dance, this unparalleled leviathan continues its eternal journey across the frozen heavens. To comprehend its magnitude is to embrace the profound, quiet majesty of a solar system that still holds countless secrets waiting to be whispered into the dark. If we were to pluck this icy behemoth from its orbit and place it closer to the Sun, it would undeniably be classified as a planet in its own right. This colossal satellite possesses physical dimensions so vast that it is actually 8% larger than the rocky planet Mercury. It is a stunning realization that a mere companion to a gas giant can outsize an independent world that circles our star. Consider the quiet audacity of a moon dwarfing a primary planet, quietly shifting our perspectives on cosmic hierarchy and planetary formation. Mercury, with its iron core and sun-scorched surface, is entirely eclipsed by the sheer, spanning diameter of this Jovian wanderer. As it glides along its orbital path, the moon's immense silhouette is a testament to the staggering amounts of material that coalesced in the early days of Jupiter's creation. Beyond the asteroid belt, the rules of scale seem to warp and expand, allowing satellites to grow into true titans of ice and rock. This size discrepancy invites a profound sense of wonder, demanding that we look at the night sky with a renewed appreciation for its boundless diversity. The silent scale of this world, hovering peacefully in the dark, forever alters how we measure the celestial bodies around us. Far beyond the orbit of Neptune, the icy world of Pluto captures our collective imagination as a beloved emblem of the deep solar system. Yet, even that famous dwarf planet is entirely dwarfed by the massive, overwhelming volume of this Jovian titan. If placed side by side, Pluto would look like a mere younger sibling next to the towering spherical bulk of Jupiter's grandest companion. This staggering difference in size highlights the sheer concentration of mass and matter that orbits within the swirling planetary system of Jupiter. It is humbling to realize that our Sun's family contains moons that outclass entire categories of distant sun-orbiting worlds. The quiet immensity of this satellite speaks to the chaotic, magnificent processes of accretion that swept through the primordial nebula billions of years ago. Picture the profound isolation of Pluto alone in the Kuiper Belt, now contrasted with this massive sphere safely anchored to a gas giant. The universe continuously proves that size is not solely dictated by a body's independence or proximity to the Sun. Within the dark, frigid domain of the outer planets, this celestial giant silently redefines the boundaries of scale, floating eternally through the velvet blackness. Every other moon drifting through our solar system falls short of a particular, monumental threshold of planetary geometry. Surpassing all its celestial peers, this unique world is the only satellite known to boast a substantial, staggering radius of over 2,600 kilometers. This sheer physical expanse creates a surface area so vast it could easily host continents and oceans akin to those found on Earth. Such a monumental radius means that the horizon stretches out to an almost unimaginable distance, curving gently away into the star-studded abyss. Walking across its frozen, cratered plains would be an endless journey of epic proportions, a trek across a landscape that dwarfs the surface of any other moon. The pure scale of its circumference is a silent monument to the gravitational gathering power it wielded during the solar system's chaotic infancy. Suspended peacefully in the vacuum, the sheer breadth of this world evokes a deep sense of cosmic tranquility. It is a globe of epic proportions, resting quietly under the faint light of a distant sun and the overwhelming glow of Jupiter. This unparalleled radius ensures its position as the undisputed king of all satellites, a true planetary titan forever wandering the cold, dark oceans of space. Anchored to the most massive planet in our solar neighbourhood, this giant moon executes a perfectly choreographed celestial waltz. Orbiting at a vast, respectful distance of over 1 million kilometres from Jupiter's swirling cloud tops, its path is both grand and deliberately slow. It takes precisely 7 Earth days and a few fleeting hours to complete a single, patient journey around its commanding gas giant host. This week-long orbit sets a mesmerizing rhythmic pace, a slow and steady sweep through the intense magnetic environment of the Jovian system. While inner moons whip around Jupiter in mere hours, racing in a chaotic blur, this distant Leviathan glides with a calm imperial dignity. Its measured transit is a reminder of the vast empty spaces that separate even the closest cosmic companions in the outer solar system. Imagine standing on its surface, watching a week slowly unfold as the surrounding stars imperceptibly shift behind the looming bulk of Jupiter. The deliberate speed of its endless voyage fosters a sense of profound peace amidst the swirling storms and radiation belts nearby. In this quiet corner of the void, time itself seems to stretch and expand, measured by the gentle sweeping arcs of a gargantuan moon. Mass exerts an invisible, undeniable influence that reaches across the dark gulfs of empty space. Because of its tremendous size and weight, the gentle gravitational pull of this giant acts as an anchor, subtly dictating the mechanics of the entire Jovian system. Its sheer mass is strong enough to slightly perturb and mould the orbits of its smaller icy celestial neighbours as they pass each other in the dark. Every time it aligns with Europa or Io, an imperceptible gravitational tug ripples through the vacuum, gently tugging those worlds into perfectly harmonious paths. This delicate, invisible web of gravity binds the moons together in a grand, repeating cosmic clockwork that has ticked dependably for billions of years. Without the steady, massive presence of this larger satellite, the orbital dance of Jupiter's family would quickly devolve into chaos. Notice how the universe relies on these unseen forces to maintain balance and order in the most extreme environments. The moon does not merely exist in isolation, it actively shapes the destiny and geological life of the worlds around it through its quiet, pulling strength. Floating gracefully in the dark, it acts as a stabilizing titan, its gravity reaching out like a soft, invisible hand in the night. To stand upon the frozen, cracked ice of this world would be to witness the most breathtaking and terrifying vista imaginable. Looking straight up from its ancient surface, the banded, swirling face of Jupiter would appear impossibly immense, dominating a staggering portion of the black sky. Because of a phenomenon known as tidal locking, the same hemisphere of the moon forever faces its massive parent planet. This means the gas giant never rises and never sets, it simply hangs permanently, a looming, vibrant sphere suspended against a backdrop of unblinking stars. The swirling storms, the great red spot, and the turbulent atmospheric belts would play out their violent weather patterns in perpetual, silent, slow motion above you. It is a view that is simultaneously awe-inspiring and profoundly intimidating, a constant reminder of the moon's subservient place in gravity's hierarchy. On the opposite side of the moon, the night sky looks entirely different, forever turned away from the planetary master and staring deep into interstellar space. This permanent division of the sky creates a world of two distinct realities, one bathed in the reflected ghostly glow of Jupiter and the other lost in absolute cosmic darkness. It is a mesmerizing, unmoving cosmic portrait painted onto the heavens. The warmth and fierce brilliance we associate with the sun are little more than distant rumours in this remote sector of the solar system. Light travelling at absolute maximum cosmic velocity must journey across hundreds of millions of miles of empty, freezing void to reach this destination. It takes over 40 long minutes for a single photon to cross that unimaginable distance and finally softly illuminate this frozen alien expanse. When the sunlight finally arrives, it is weak, diluted and ghostly pale, casting long, stark shadows across the deep tectonic grooves and ancient impact craters. This faint illumination provides no meaningful heat, leaving the surface permanently locked in temperatures that hover hundreds of degrees below zero. Yet, even this whisper of light is enough to make the moon's icy plains gleam like a fragile, polished pearl in the absolute dark. Watching the slow creep of dawn on this world would be an exercise in extreme patience, as the twilight stretches out endlessly. The sun itself would appear as nothing more than a particularly bright, piercing star, entirely stripped of its comforting, life-giving warmth. Here, under the weak rays of a distant star, the cold and the silence reign supreme, preserving a frozen world exactly as it was at the dawn of time. Visual scale can often be a deceiving metric when exploring the diverse alien geology of the outer solar system. Despite possessing a volume that effortlessly dwarfs the innermost planet of our solar system, this Jovian giant actually possesses only half the mass of Mercury. This profound discrepancy in density reveals the fundamental difference between the rocky worlds near the sun and the frozen, volatile-rich bodies of the deep dark. Mercury is essentially a massive, incredibly dense ball of heavy iron and dense silicates, forged in the intense, searing heat of the inner system. In stark contrast, this colossal moon, is constructed largely of lightweight water ice, loosely packed rock, and frozen gases, built in a region where temperatures allow these fragile materials to solidify. It is an enormous cosmic snowball, vast in size but surprisingly light and buoyant in its composition. This delicate internal architecture allows it to be both the largest moon in existence and yet surprisingly gentle in its overall planetary density. If one could weigh these two celestial bodies on a cosmic scale, the smaller iron-forged planet would violently tip the balance against the towering icy sphere. It is a beautiful paradox that such a gargantuan world floats so lightly, a fragile giant gracefully tracing its orbit in the cold. For almost all of human history, the night sky was an unchanging tapestry of pinpricks of light, completely devoid of any known moons other than our own. That profound isolation ended forever when rudimentary, groundbreaking telescopes from Earth first spotted this gentle giant in the calm early days of the 17th century. In the winter of 1610, peering through a simple tube of glass and wood, humanity finally saw what was once invisible. Galileo Galilei noticed a tiny bright speck of light methodically changing its position night after night around the glowing disk of Jupiter. This seemingly small observation shattered the long-held belief that everything in the universe revolved exclusively around the Earth, fundamentally shifting our entire cosmological paradigm. The sudden realization that other planets hosted their own magnificent orbital families was a silent intellectual earthquake that echoes through scientific history. From those first blurry, trembling observations, this massive satellite has evolved in our minds from a mere point of light into a complex, fully realized world. It has waited patiently in the dark for over 4 centuries as our technology slowly caught up to its distant, icy shores. Today, it stands not just as a historical milestone, but as a towering monument to humanity's endless, enduring quest to understand the vastness of the dark. As we venture deeper into that vastness of the dark, the true face of this frozen leviathan finally emerges from the perpetual twilight. The icy crust of this satellite is not a uniform, featureless shell, but rather a canvas distinctly divided into 2 beautifully different types of terrain. This dual nature transforms the sphere into a celestial masterpiece of stark, quiet visual contrast, forever locked in a frozen equilibrium. From a distance, the globe appears marbled, adorned with sweeping swathes of contrasting materials that tell a tale of a world fractured by time. One can clearly see the distinct boundaries where 2 entirely separate geological eras violently collided and then peacefully froze in place. It is a planetary dichotomy that defines the moon's entire character, offering a visual diary of its long, turbulent evolution. Vast dark regions cover approximately 1/3 of the moon's sprawling surface, resembling sprawling continents composed of ancient charcoal-coloured ice. These shadowy expanses are heavily scarred and battered by resting impact craters, bearing the silent, enduring marks of billions of years of cosmic bombardment. They represent the original primordial crust of the satellite, preserving the harsh memory of the solar system's chaotic and violent infancy. Picture a landscape that has been steadily pummeled since the dawn of planetary formation, where every falling meteor left an indelible, eternal signature. The overlapping craters create a rough, undulating terrain of ridges and bowls, gently slumped and softened by the slow flow of ice over eons. It is a quiet, desolate wilderness of shadow and antiquity, a frozen graveyard of asteroids and comets that met their end against this massive shield. Walking across these dark, cratered plains would be a journey through the deepest history of the outer system, surrounded by silent monuments to ancient collisions. The absolute stillness of these battered regions stands in quiet defiance of the forces that once sought to tear the crust apart. They remain peacefully intact, a dark and stoic foundation upon which the rest of the moon's history has been continuously written. Contrasting sharply with the battered antiquity of the dark continents, bright regions make up the remaining 2/3 of the moon's sprawling surface. These luminous zones are characterized by intricate, sweeping patterns of ridges and grooves that crisscross the terrain in a mesmerizing, chaotic web. They are a testament to periods of immense internal stress, where the frozen crust was violently torn apart and subsequently healed by upwelling material. This bright, fractured landscape looks as though a giant cosmic hand dragged a colossal rake across the ice, leaving behind endless parallel tracks. The grooves can stretch for thousands of miles, their towering icy walls rising like frozen mountain ranges against the black backdrop of space. It is a profoundly dynamic terrain, suggesting that beneath the quiet exterior, the moon was once a restless, churning engine of geological transformation. Surprisingly, the sheer complexity of these sweeping patterns forms a delicate, almost organic geometry when viewed from high planetary orbit. The interweaving lines create a brilliant reflective network that catches the faint light of the distant sun, scattering it gently into the void. This bright terrain weaves a beautiful story of immense planetary renewal, acting as a bright scar tissue that binds the older, darker crust together. Deep within the shadowy expanses of the older crust, scientists believe the darker areas are not merely composed of dusty, dirty ice. Instead, these ancient regions likely contain complex organic compounds, the very chemical building blocks of life, mixed smoothly with the frozen water. This revelation transforms the dark, cratered plains from simple impact zones into vast, quiet reservoirs of primordial chemistry preserved in the deep cold. As your own breathing slows and your body sinks deeper into a state of heavy, peaceful rest, consider the quiet patience of these dormant molecules. They have lain undisturbed for billions of years, shielded from the harsh radiation of space by a thin layer of protective frost and cosmic dust. The presence of these carbon-rich materials hints at the fascinating possibility that the ingredients necessary for life are incredibly abundant even in this freezing darkness. This ancient organic dust is thought to have been delivered by the very comets and asteroids that scarred the surface so violently in the past. Over unimaginable stretches of time, the debris continually accumulated, painting the original ice with a dark, carbonaceous stain that gently absorbs the faint sunlight. It is a beautiful synthesis of destruction and creation, where violent impact slowly seeded a barren, frigid crust with a profound potential for chemical complexity. Slicing dramatically through the ancient dark plains, the bright grooved terrain reveals long past periods of dramatic and powerful geological shifting. These luminous bands act like massive tectonic highways, aggressively cutting across the older craters and entirely erasing the history that once quietly existed there. The way these bright zones cleanly bisect the dark continents indicates that the moon experienced distinct, global episodes of violent expansion and fracturing. Imagine the immense, unseen forces required to pull apart a solid crust of ice that is many miles thick, creating massive planetary fault lines. The stress of Jupiter's overwhelming gravity likely played a crucial role, pulling and twisting the satellite until its frozen shell simply could not hold together. The resulting deep fissures provided a pathway for the moon to suddenly release its internal pressure, forever altering the frozen canvas of its surface. These stark intersections between the old and the new provide a breathtaking visual record of a world tearing itself apart and knitting itself back together. The bright grooved swathes are the celestial equivalent of planetary stretch marks, born from a tumultuous era when the moon's interior was actively expanding. They are a permanent testament to a turbulent past that has long since settled into the profound, enduring silence of the present day. These brighter, heavily fractured zones are considerably younger than the dark plains, representing a massive resurfacing event that completely transformed the moon's appearance. They were likely formed by cryovolcanism, a magnificent cosmic process where pure liquid water and slush forcefully erupted from below the broken, shifting crust. Instead of the fiery, molten rock found on terrestrial worlds, This frozen moon bled pristine, freezing water directly into the cold vacuum of space. When the deep tectonic rifts tore the surface open, the pressurized liquid from the interior rushed upward, instantly boiling and freezing in the absence of an atmosphere. This erupting water flowed across the shattered landscape like a slow, glacial lava, cleanly burying the ancient craters beneath a fresh, smooth layer of ice. As it rapidly froze, the newly formed surface was subjected to the same shifting planetary forces, buckling into the immense parallel ridges we see today. The concept of water volcanoes erupting in the silent dark completely challenges our terrestrial expectations of how planetary bodies release their internal heat. The stunning result of these icy eruptions is a blindingly bright surface, composed of relatively pure water ice that has not yet been darkened by cosmic dust. This pristine, frozen flood perfectly preserved the tectonic struggles of the moon, beautifully capturing a moment of violent change in a permanent state of rest. Scattered gracefully across both the bright and dark regions, brilliant frost deposits reflect the faint sunlight like millions of tiny peaceful mirrors. These localized patches of extremely pure crystalline ice often form along the steep edges of the tectonic ridges and the resting rims of younger craters. They catch the weak rays of the distant sun, creating a delicate, sparkling effect that softens the immense scale and harshness of the fractured terrain. Just as your mind drifts in a state of tranquil stillness, these delicate frostings rest completely undisturbed upon the massive, towering structures of solid ice. The extreme, unyielding cold of the environment ensures that once these fragile crystals form, they remain perfectly preserved, never melting or sublimating into the void. They add a magnificent layer of ephemeral beauty to the ancient landscape, highlighting the subtle contours and sharp elevations of the frozen, wandering world. This surface frost is a continuous, ongoing phenomenon, carefully created as trace amounts of water vapour occasionally leak from the deep interior and instantly freeze. The pristine nature of these bright deposits provides a stark, gleaming contrast against the older, dust-covered plains, creating a landscape that truly glitters in the absolute dark. It is a quiet, ongoing cosmic artistry, where the moon slowly and deliberately decorates itself with the purest, coldest diamonds of ice imaginable. Because the sun is so incredibly distant, the light that reaches this world arrives at a low, sweeping angle for much of the moon's long day. The shadows cast by the towering ridges and deep grooves provide a stunning, dramatic sense of depth when viewed from a passing celestial vantage point. These long ink-black silhouettes stretch out across the icy plains, perfectly outlining the immense scale of the tectonic formations against the brighter, reflective surface. In the total absence of an atmosphere to scatter the light, the boundary between the illuminated ice and the cast shadow is razor-sharp and absolutely absolute. This intense contrast transforms the terrain into a stark, two-dimensional drawing when viewed from directly above, only revealing its towering three-dimensional nature through the slowly shifting shadows. The flawless interplay of faint light and absolute darkness creates a hauntingly beautiful, hypnotic visual rhythm across the thousands of miles of grooved terrain. To glide low over this landscape would be to carefully navigate a labyrinth of brilliant, blinding peaks and plunging, pitch-black, icy canyons. The true depth of the grooves is fully exposed by the creeping shadows, revealing terrifying drops that easily rival the most magnificent canyons found on our own planet. It is a quiet, frozen landscape defined just as much by the profound darkness it captures as by the faint, distant light it manages to reflect. The transition between the chaotic, bright ridges and the ancient resting continents is rarely a gentle or gradual fading of one terrain into another. Distinct, razor-sharp boundary lines carefully separate the old, dark, crater-scarred ice from the newer, bright, sweeping swathes of heavily grooved crust. These borders look exactly as though they were drawn by a cosmic cartographer, definitively and permanently mapping out the exact limits of the Moon's great geological upheavals. These boundaries serve as a quiet, definitive timeline of the Moon's evolution, permanently marking the exact moments when the buried ocean tried to expand the world. They are planetary fault lines frozen in perpetuity, a physical, enduring manifestation of a celestial body's internal struggles etched across its entire circumference. In the absolute silence of the outer solar system, these lines eloquently and patiently narrate a history of both shattering destruction and miraculous healing. When viewed in its magnificent entirety, the complex interplay of these diverse geological features transforms the Moon into a breathtaking spherical tapestry. The colours on this distant world beautifully range from deep, carbonaceous charcoal to the brightest, most pristine snowy white, creating a truly mesmerising planetary mosaic. It is not simply a grey, dead rock, but a nuanced palette of icy hues carefully determined by age, chemical composition, and billions of years of cosmic exposure. Let your body remain completely heavy and relaxed, resting in the absolute comfort of gravity as you visualize this majestic, two-toned globe suspended in the endless void. The dark, ancient plains provide a somber, muted background against which the brilliant, radiating patterns of the younger, fractured ice can brightly shine. Together, they form an intricate, swirling pattern of light and dark that flawlessly wraps around the entire circumference of the colossal silent satellite. This mosaic is a silent, enduring masterpiece, slowly painted by the chaotic, powerful forces of the universe over billions of incredibly lonely years. The stark beauty of its contrasting surface is a profound reward for those who look closely at the seemingly cold, dead worlds of the deep system. Floating eternally in the dark, this majestic, two-toned canvas continues to gracefully orbit its giant host, keeping its frozen, beautiful secrets carefully locked away in the ice. Perhaps the most profound of these frozen, beautiful secrets carefully locked away in the ice is not visible on the fractured surface at all. Uniquely among all the known moons drifting through our vast solar system, this celestial sphere generates its very own internal magnetic field. It is a stunning cosmic anomaly, an invisible, pulsing aura that elevates the satellite from a simple frozen rock to a dynamic, almost living entity. While other satellites might briefly capture passing magnetic forces or induce weak, temporary fields from their host, this massive world creates its own permanent magnetic hum. This steady, invisible force radiates endlessly outward from the deep, unseen interior, piercing effortlessly through the miles of dark ocean and thick frozen crust. It silently wraps the entire globe in an invisible protective embrace, a ghostly and enduring shield holding strong against the terrible emptiness of the void. To discover such a complex phenomenon around a moon is akin to finding a warm, beating heart inside a frozen ancient statue. The sheer rarity of this attribute transforms our fundamental understanding of what lies sleeping beneath the cold, silent exterior of these deep space wanderers. It definitively proves that a world suspended in eternal, unforgiving winter can still possess an incredibly active, churning soul buried deep within its core. Deep within the hidden core of this icy giant, far below the buried lightless oceans and the thick rocky mantle, a massive, steady dynamo quietly roars. This central hidden heart is composed of churning molten iron, constantly swirling and convecting in the crushing dark pressures of the moon's deepest interior. The relentless twisting movement of this liquid metal generates powerful electrical currents, which in turn birth the permanent magnetic field that surrounds the world. Astoundingly, the presence of a liquid iron core suggests that the temperatures at the very centre are incredibly fierce, contrasting sharply with the hundreds of degrees below zero resting on the surface. Heat slowly leaking from ancient radioactive decay, combined with the subtle, rhythmic squeezing of orbital tides, keeps this metallic heart from solidifying into a cold, dead mass. It is a wondrous, breathtaking contradiction, a perfect sphere of searing liquid metal flawlessly encased within a planetary shell of pristine frozen water. This internal engine functions much like the spinning dynamo at the centre of our own Earth, albeit on a somewhat smaller, more isolated cosmic scale. The steady, majestic rotation of the moon continuously stirs the molten iron, ensuring the protective magnetic hum never falters or fades into the encroaching dark. It stands as a profound testament to the immense hidden energies that still passionately pulse through the veins of the outer solar system's most ancient bodies. As you allow your shoulders to drop and your breathing to find a steady rhythmic pace, consider the nested, invisible bubbles of force surrounding this world. This internal magnetic field creates a miniature magnetosphere, a distinct and sovereign zone of magnetic influence comfortably nestled within the gargantuan magnetic bubble of its parent planet. It is a highly localized pocket of order and quiet, a smaller protective shell tenaciously holding its own against the overwhelming, sweeping forces generated by the nearby gas giant. The boundary where these two massive magnetic domains meet is a complex, invisible frontier of clashing energies and dancing, highly charged particles. Despite the overwhelming, sheer superiority of the parent planet's incredible magnetic reach, the icy moon stubbornly maintains its own independent magnetic territory in the dark. This creates a beautifully rare scenario of a bubble resting within a larger bubble, a fascinating invisible anomaly in the intricate mechanics of planetary physics. Navigating the treacherous space around the moon would require passing directly through these invisible magnetic walls, transitioning from one sovereign magnetic realm directly into another. It is a quiet, continuous and eternal battle of invisible forces, where the icy satellite proudly holds its ground against the most powerful magnetic storm in the local planetary neighbourhood. The resulting magnetic architecture is uniquely beautiful, forming an unseen complex geometry of lines and fields curving gracefully through the silent, cold vacuum. Sweeping violently through the outer solar system, harsh, invisible particles carried by the solar wind and the chaotic jovian environment constantly batter everything in their path. Yet, as these highly charged particles approach this unique spinning moon, they're gracefully deflected and safely steered around the globe by the invisible magnetic shield. This elegant diversion forms a quiet, profoundly protected zone in the moon's trailing wake, a rare sanctuary of relative calm amidst the raging high-energy particle storms. Picture a smooth, beautifully rounded river stone resting peacefully in the middle of a rushing, violent rapid, cleanly parting the turbulent water around its edges. The magnetic field acts exactly like that enduring stone, splitting the relentless flow of dangerous radiation and channeling it safely away from the fragile, icy equator. It is an unseen, eternal, and perfect defense mechanism, tirelessly guarding the frozen, delicate surface from the absolute worst of the surrounding violent cosmic weather. Without this gentle, continuous deflection, the severe bombardment would slowly and inevitably erode the surface ice, permanently altering its pristine chemistry and darkening its bright ridges. The shield carefully creates a sweeping, comet-like tail of magnetic force trailing behind the moon as it plows confidently through the harsh, swirling jovian environment. Within this highly protective wake, the silent dark is truly and deeply tranquil, free from the chaotic, searing rain of energetic particles that saturates the entire region. Guided by the curving, invisible lines of magnetic force, a specific portion of those charged, chaotic particles is funneled directly toward the moon's extreme north and south poles. As these energetic particles forcefully and continuously collide with the tenuous, whispering atmosphere of oxygen, they ignite a stunning, silent, celestial display. Auroras peacefully and beautifully dance around the polar regions, behaving much like the gentle, shifting northern lights that occasionally grace the quiet winter skies on Earth. These glowing, ethereal and majestic rings of light crown the icy globe, softly illuminating the deep ridges and ancient craters with a ghostly shifting radiance. They shimmer and sway delicately in the absolute vacuum, silently painting the highest, most desolate latitudes with vibrant, continuous bands of raw ultraviolet energy. It is a hypnotic, never-ending performance, a beautiful, striking visual manifestation of the invisible forces battling and interacting high above the deeply frozen ground. For several decades, the tantalizing existence of this highly localized magnetic field remained a purely theoretical possibility, an educated, hopeful guess waiting in the dark for concrete proof. The definitive, world-changing confirmation finally arrived when a great orbiting observatory from Earth turned its highly sensitive, complex lenses toward the distant, beautifully frozen sphere. Peering intently across hundreds of millions of miles of empty, freezing space, the Hubble Space Telescope flawlessly captured the soft, distinct ultraviolet glow of these polar auroras. These incredibly delicate, shimmering images provided the undeniable, highly sought-after smoking gun evidence that a beating magnetic heart was indeed actively shaping the Moon's local environment. Observing the distinct, deeply concentrated rings of light resting exactly at the poles proved that a localized magnetic field was actively organizing the chaotic surrounding Jovian radiation. It was a genuinely breathtaking moment of scientific discovery, instantly transforming invisible, complex mathematical theories into a beautiful, glowing reality perfectly captured on digital film. The unprecedented ability to detect such a faint, ghostly and delicate light against the overwhelming, blinding glare of the nearby gas giant is a true marvel of human ingenuity. The captured images beautifully revealed a dynamic, practically breathing world, confirming that the silent giant was not just a passive lump of ice, but an active, energetic participant in its cosmic surroundings. This incredible revelation permanently and fundamentally changed how we view the icy wanderers of the deep, proving they can be just as complex as the rocky planets orbiting much nearer the Sun. Notice how the gentle, rhythmic, and incredibly steady rise and fall of your resting chest mirrors the slow, majestic cosmic oscillations playing out millions of miles away. The sweeping, beautifully glowing bands of the auroras do not remain perfectly still, as they are securely locked in a complex eternal dance dictated entirely by the neighbouring gas giant. Because the massive parent planet's own powerful sweeping magnetic field is slightly tilted, its influence violently sweeps up and down, causing the delicate auroras to slowly rock back and forth. Every 10 hours, as the massive parent planet completes a full, dizzying and violent rotation, the glowing rings of a light on the icy moon subtly and predictably shift their position. They sway gently and gracefully across the polar ice, moving a few degrees in a steady, perfectly timed pendulum motion, driven entirely by invisible, powerful external forces. It is a highly hypnotic, deeply mesmerizing rhythm, a flawless celestial metronome keeping perfect time with the chaotic, rapidly spinning heart of the entire Jovian system. This continuous rocking motion beautifully and elegantly illustrates the deep, unavoidable connection between the giant silent moon and its even larger commanding planetary master. The satellite is fundamentally never truly independent. Even its most intimate, internally generated phenomena are constantly manipulated, shifted, and shaped by the sweeping, chaotic environment it inhabits. The auroras become a glowing, highly sensitive visual instrument, silently recording and displaying the sweeping, immense tidal forces of the great magnetic ocean in which they endlessly float. The continuous, perfectly rhythmic clashing and shifting of these two immense, powerful magnetic fields does far more than simply paint invisible, glowing lights in the polar sky. The constant pulling, twisting, and relentless stretching of the magnetic lines of force generate immense, highly complex electrical currents that course constantly through the moon's conductive hidden interior. As these powerful invisible currents flow directly through the deep global saltwater ocean, they encounter natural resistance, beautifully converting raw electrical energy into gentle, widespread thermal warmth. This fascinating, highly efficient process, known scientifically as magnetic induction, softly heats the moon entirely from the inside out, providing a crucial, invisible source of energy in a freezing universe. It effectively acts as a massive planetary-scale induction stove, quietly and continuously warming the deeply buried waters and permanently preventing the vast ocean from freezing entirely solid. This steady, incredibly gentle heating is a profoundly beautiful side effect of the chaotic magnetic environment, turning harsh, external radiation into deeply life-sustaining internal warmth. Deep within the lightless, immense abyss of the buried ocean, this subtle, crucial heat helps drive slow, graceful currents and potentially fuels deep, continuous hydrothermal activity. It is a truly stunning realization that the terrifying, highly energetic environment of the gas giant actually helps keep its icy, silent companion wonderfully, gently warm. The invisible electrical hum coursing endlessly through the water is a vital, enduring lifeline, a continuous transfer of cosmic energy that beautifully sustains the hidden liquid depths. Without the incredibly steadfast presence of this invisible, internally generated shield, the ultimate fate of this beautiful two-toned world would be drastically and utterly tragically different. The surrounding chaotic region of space is heavily saturated with some of the most intense, fiercely deadly radiation found anywhere within the solar system's vast borders. If left completely unprotected, the pristine, blindingly bright ridges and the ancient shadowy dark plains would be continuously, aggressively battered by a harsh, unrelenting rain of high-speed particles. This relentless, searing and destructive bombardment would quickly strip away the fragile, incredibly tenuous oxygen atmosphere, leaving the crust entirely exposed to the vicious, uncaring void. The delicate, highly complex organic compounds resting safely in the dark regions would be utterly destroyed, their intricate chemical bonds shattered by the overwhelming, brutal influx of energetic radiation. Over vast spans of time, the very structure of the surface ice would be heavily degraded, violently altering the serene, beautifully frozen mosaic into a scarred, highly irradiated wasteland. Instead, the magnificent magnetic bubble gracefully catches the absolute brunt of this cosmic fury, absorbing and perfectly deflecting the lethal energy far above the delicate resting frost. It provides a quiet, incredibly enduring sanctuary, a localized, safe haven where chemistry and geology can unfold at their own slow, immensely patient pace without catastrophic interference. The magnetic heart is not just a fascinating, isolated scientific quirk, it is the vital, necessary protective armor that flawlessly preserves the moon's stunning, perfectly icy beauty. The astonishing, utterly paradigm-breaking discovery of a beating magnetic heart inside a beautifully frozen, distant satellite forever changed our fundamental understanding of how planetary bodies actually work. Before this incredible revelation, scientists confidently and entirely believed that only large terrestrial rocky planets could possess the internal heat and churning cores necessary to generate such massive fields. Finding a liquid iron dynamo actively and powerfully humming inside a world composed largely of lightweight water, ice completely and permanently shattered those long-held, comfortable scientific assumptions. It instantly forced a profound, mind-expanding realization that the seemingly quiet moons of the outer solar system are not simply dead, thoroughly frozen relics of the distant past. They are incredibly complex, highly dynamic and beautifully active worlds, possessing intricate internal architectures and energetic processes that easily rival those of the primary, sun-warmed planets. This single, purely invisible phenomenon elevated the status of these icy, wandering spheres, demanding they be studied with the exact same reverence and intense curiosity as any terrestrial globe. As we continue to gaze out into the deep, mysterious dark, this magnetic sphere stands as an incredibly powerful reminder that the universe is endlessly creative and deeply surprising. It teaches us a profound lesson that true complexity can easily hide beneath the coldest, most utterly silent exteriors, waiting patiently for the right instruments to unveil its incredible secrets. The steady hum of its molten core is a beautifully invisible song, echoing endlessly through the vacuum and forever altering the immense landscape of our collective cosmic imagination. Within that immense landscape of our collective cosmic imagination, we must now venture far beneath the frozen skin of the giant moon, where a secret of staggering proportions remains tucked away from the prying eyes of the sun. Deep within the lightless interior lies a massive global ocean of liquid salt water, sleeping in a state of total and absolute darkness that has never been broken by a single ray of light. It is an environment of profound silence, where currents move with a slow, deliberate grace beneath miles of solid, unyielding ice that acts as a planetary shield. This subterranean abyss wraps around the entire moon, creating a watery shell that separates the rocky core from the frozen exterior in a perfect spherical layer. No light has ever touched these waters, making it a realm of eternal midnight that exists in a state of perfect, undisturbed stillness throughout the passing eons. It is a world within a world, a hidden liquid heart that defines the moon's true nature far more than the craters and ridges of its surface. The scale of this buried reservoir is so immense that it challenges our basic understanding of how much water a single celestial body can actually hold. Astounding measurements and complex gravity models suggest that this hidden sea contains more water than all of the oceans on Earth combined, a hoarding of liquid that seems almost impossible for a mere moon. While our own blue planet is defined by its vast surface seas, this icy moon hides a volume of liquid that makes terrestrial oceans appear like shallow pools in comparison. This vast amount of water is distributed in a layer that reaches depths far beyond anything found in the deepest trenches of our own world. It is a staggering concentration of the most vital substance in the universe, held captive within a single satellite in the outer solar system's frigid reaches. The sheer magnitude of this liquid hoard suggests a wealth of resources that remained entirely invisible to humanity for the vast majority of our historical observation of the night sky. If we were to drain the Earth's oceans and pour them into this moon's hidden abyss, they would likely only fill a portion of the space available in this colossal subterranean tank. This realization shifts our perspective on what it means to be a watery world, as the true giants of hydration may not be the planets near the sun, but the moons of the gas giants. It is a silent liquid empire, resting quietly in the dark, possessing a volume of water that is as terrifying as it is magnificent. Surprisingly, the first definitive whisper of this hidden abyss did not come from drilling through the ice or sending a probe into the depths, but from observing the lights in the polar sky. The rocky, swaying movements of the surface auroras provided the ultimate clue to the existence of this massive, conductive subsurface water layer miles beneath the ground. Because the auroras are tied to the moon's magnetic field, their behaviour is subtly and predictably influenced by any conductive material moving deep within the interior. When researchers noticed that the auroras did not rock as much as they should under the overwhelming magnetic influence of Jupiter, they realised a stabilising force must be present. This dampening effect was the unmistakable signature of a massive salty ocean, acting as a powerful electrical buffer against the gas giant's crushing magnetic pull. It was a beautiful moment of scientific deduction, where the flickering ultraviolet glow of a polar sky revealed the presence of a dark, silent sea buried deep underground. This celestial detective work allowed us to peer through the solid crust without ever touching the surface, using the very light of the auroras to map the dark. The swaying of the lights acts like a rhythmic pulse, signaling the presence of the liquid heart that keeps the moon's magnetic environment stable. It is a testament to the interconnectedness of all things in the Jovian system, where the behaviour of gas and light can reveal the secrets of rock and water. Because this hidden ocean is deeply saturated with dissolved salts, it functions as a highly efficient conductor for electrical currents generated by the surrounding environment. This chemical composition allows the hidden ocean to interact strongly and continuously with the sweeping, chaotic magnetic field of the nearby gas giant. As Jupiter's magnetic lines of force wash over the Moon, they induce secondary electrical currents within the saltwater, creating a secondary magnetic signature that pushes back against the external forces. This invisible interaction is what allows the Moon to maintain such a complex and independent relationship with the surrounding Jovian environment. The salt acts as an invisible bridge between the planetary forces and the Moon's internal structure, effectively turning the ocean into a giant liquid electrical component in a cosmic circuit. It is a fascinating mechanism that demonstrates how the very chemistry of water can dictate the physical behaviour of an entire world across the vacuum of space. Notice how the presence of something as simple as salt can transform a passive body of water into a dynamic participant in the magnetic dance of the solar system. The ocean is not just a stagnant pool, but an active shield, generating its own magnetic resistance as it ploughs through the Jovian magnetosphere. This conductivity is the key to the Moon's resilience, allowing it to maintain its internal integrity despite the violent energies that saturate the space around it. Resting above this liquid expanse is a formidable barrier that protects the ocean from the harsh, radiation-blasted reality of the outer solar system. Solid ice entirely encases this ocean, acting as a thick, protective planetary blanket that stretches over 100 kilometers deep into the Moon's interior. This massive shell of frozen water serves as a perfect insulator, trapping the internal heat and preserving the liquid state of the depths against the encroaching absolute cold of space. As you feel the weight of your own body settling into a state of deep, quiet relaxation, imagine the crushing weight of that 100-kilometer ceiling of ice pressing down from above. It is a structure of unimaginable strength and scale, holding the global sea in a permanent pressurized grip that prevents it from ever escaping into the void. This icy roof ensures that the world below remains a sanctuary, entirely cut off from the radiation and vacuum that define the Moon's external environment. Beneath this massive blanket, the ocean exists in a state of eternal, pressurized calm, safe from the impacts and storms that scar the surface. The ice is not just a surface, but a profound barrier that separates two entirely different worlds: the frozen, battered exterior and the liquid, pristine interior. It is a planetary-scale fortress of water, protecting the Moon's most precious secret with a thickness that is almost impossible to comprehend. Deep within the lowest reaches of this watery abyss, the physical laws governing the behaviour of water begin to shift into strange and exotic territory. Pressures at the bottom of the abyss are so immense that the liquid water naturally transitions into exotic phases of dense crystalline ice that would be impossible to find on Earth. This is not the familiar ice found in a winter pond, but a high-pressure form known as Ice 6 or Ice 7, which is so heavy that it sinks to the floor. This creates a complex vertical landscape where a liquid sea is effectively sandwiched between two different types of solid water. The intense gravity of the Moon and the weight of the overhead ocean force the water molecules into rigid, ultra-dense structures that form a solid foundation for the global sea. It is a realm of alien physics, where the very concept of freezing is dictated by the crushing weight of the world above rather than the drop of temperature. Surprisingly, this layer of exotic ice acts as a floor that separates the liquid water from the rocky mantle below, creating a unique chemical barrier. The interaction between the water and the rock must occur through this dense crystalline layer, influencing how minerals and heat are transferred into the ocean. It is a world where the states of matter are redefined by the sheer scale of the environment. creating a structure that is as rigid as it is fluid. This liquid state is stubbornly and gracefully maintained by a source of warmth buried even deeper than the water itself, resting at the very core of the moon. Heat slowly radiating from the radioactive decay of elements within the rocky mantle keeps the water from freezing into a completely solid block of ice. This nuclear furnace, though faint and ancient, provides a steady and reliable flow of energy that has persisted since the moon's very formation billions of years ago. Without this internal glow, the vast reservoir would have long ago surrendered to the absolute zero of the surrounding space, becoming a dead sphere of solid, frozen water. The rock and water exist in a delicate thermal balance, where the core's warmth is just enough to fight off the crushing chill of the Jovian system. It is a quiet, enduring victory of internal energy over the external cold, ensuring that a liquid environment can exist in the most unlikely of places. If we were to look closer at this process, we would see a world that is self-sustaining, generating its own life-preserving warmth through the natural decay of its own materials. This heat rises through the rocky mantle and the exotic ice layers, gently warming the base of the ocean and driving slow, rhythmic currents. It is a slow-motion metabolism for an entire world, a planetary heartbeat that has been ticking steadily since the dawn of time. If we were to look closer at the internal architecture of this world, we might find a structure even more complex than a single simple sea. Some sophisticated models thoughtfully propose a layered structure consisting of several distinct oceans stacked like a cosmic cake between different types of dense ice. In this scenario, the interior is not a single cavern, but a series of liquid and solid shells, alternating as the pressure and temperature fluctuate at different depths. Notice how the rhythm of your own pulse remains a steady, comforting constant, much like the slow circulation of these hidden, stacked currents. Each layer would have its own unique chemistry and temperature, creating a vertical ecosystem of liquid reservoirs separated by barriers of high-pressure crystal. This multifaceted interior makes the Moon one of the most structurally complex objects in the solar system, a world defined by its intricate and hidden verticality. This club sandwich model of the interior suggests that the Moon is a world of many flaws, each with its own character and potential for discovery. The pressure at each level would dictate the density of the ice and the saltiness of the water, creating a stratified environment of unimaginable diversity. It is a masterpiece of planetary engineering, where gravity and temperature work together to create a complex, multi-layered sanctuary for liquid water. The sheer, staggering volume of this liquid reservoir makes the Moon one of the most fascinating candidates in the ongoing search for quiet, habitable environments. Wherever we find liquid water and a source of chemical energy on Earth, we find the presence of life, making this buried ocean a primary target for future exploration. The vast surface area where the water meets the rocky mantle could provide the necessary minerals and nutrients for complex chemistry to emerge in the dark. While the surface is a radiation-blasted desert of ice, the deep interior offers a stable, protected world that has remained largely unchanged for eons. It is a tantalizing possibility that life could be thriving in the absolute darkness of another world, fueled by the warmth of a radioactive core and the chemistry of a salty sea. The Moon represents a profound expansion of our definition of a habitable zone, proving that life does not necessarily require the light of a star to survive. Imagine the silence of such a world, where the only sound is the slow movement of currents and the occasional cracking of the overhead ice. It is a potential cradle for life that is entirely alien to our own, existing in a realm where the sun is only a distant memory. This Moon invites us to look beyond the surfaces of planets and consider the vast hidden possibilities that lie beneath the crusts of the solar system's icy giants. Silent and entirely undisturbed, these waters have remained sealed away from the rest of the universe for billions of consecutive years. Since the early epochs of the solar system's formation, this global ocean has been locked behind its icy fortress, never once interacting with the vacuum or the solar wind. It is a time capsule of primordial water, preserving the chemical conditions of the early Jovian system in a state of perfect liquid suspension. This profound isolation means that any secrets held within the depths are pristine and entirely unaffected by the external events of the passing ages. While planets were hit by asteroids and stars evolved, the deep currents of this world continued their slow, rhythmic motion in the total dark. It is a place of ultimate sanctuary, a liquid vault that has guarded its treasures for nearly half the age of the universe itself, waiting for a moment of discovery that is still yet to come. As we continue to contemplate this hidden world, we realize that the universe is far wetter and more hospitable than it first appears. The ocean of this moon is a silent witness to the history of our solar system, a vast reservoir of potential that remains entirely untouched by the chaos of the surface. It is the ultimate expression of the moon's hidden complexity, a dark and watery heart that beats with the slow, steady rhythm of eternity. That steady rhythm of eternity is not merely an internal phenomenon, but is mirrored in the grand mechanical design of the heavens above. High above the buried oceans, the moon is locked in a beautiful invisible orbital dance known as the Laplace resonance, with its closest sibling moons. This celestial bond creates a shared destiny, where the movements of one massive world are perfectly synchronized with the journeys of its nearest neighbors, ensuring that no body ever moves in isolation. It is a relationship defined by a profound mathematical elegance that has persisted since the earliest days of the planetary system's formation billions of years ago. This resonance acts as a stabilizing force, preventing the moons from drifting away or colliding in a chaotic tangle of competing gravitational influence. It is the ultimate expression of order amidst the vast, swirling storms of the surrounding environment, a quiet and enduring promise of predictability in a universe that often favours entropic decline. Within this sacred geometry, each moon plays its part with an impeccable sense of timing and grace, never missing a single beat of the pulsing cosmic heart. This orbital lock is so strong and so ancient that it has become the fundamental law governing the entire local neighbourhood of the gas giant. It is a beautiful invisible tether of gravity that ensures no world ever wanders too far into the darkness alone, forever bound by the math of the stars. Surprisingly, the universe reveals a strict and uncompromising mathematical precision in the way these three worlds navigate the dark. For every single, patient orbit that the largest moon gracefully completes around its planetary host, the neighbouring world Europa finishes exactly 2 full revolutions. Meanwhile, the inner moon Io completes exactly 4 full journeys, creating a nested, perfectly timed sequence of celestial cycles that never once falters or delays. This precise ratio ensures that the 3 satellites return to their starting positions relative to one another, with a regularity that rivals the finest human timepieces. It is a cascading rhythm, a sequence of 4, 2, and 1 that resonates through the vacuum like a deep, silent, and ancient chime. This clockwork alignment is the primary engine behind the moon's internal activity, dictating the flow of energy across hundreds of thousands of miles of empty space. Imagine the immense scale of this synchronization, where millions of tons of ice and rock are shifted with the mathematical accuracy of a microchip. The absolute predictability of this movement allows for a unique stability that has allowed the moon to develop its complex, multi-layered interior over billions of years. It is a mathematical masterpiece written in the language of gravity, a testament to the quiet, structured beauty of the deep solar system. This intricate gravitational choreography ensures that the paths of these moons are never perfectly circular or static in their journey. Instead, the constant tugging from their siblings forces them into slightly elliptical, sweeping paths that bring them alternately closer to and further from the master planet. It is a shifting, dynamic geometry that defines the very shape of their existence within the intense gravitational field of the planetary host. As the moon swings through its elliptical arc, it experiences a constant change in velocity and perspective, forever falling toward its host and then swinging safely away. This eccentricity is not a flaw in the system, but a vital component of the resonance that keeps the entire neighbourhood alive and active. The path is a graceful, elongated loop, a cosmic signature traced repeatedly across the velvet blackness of space with effortless poise. Notice how this sweeping motion prevents the world from ever settling into a state of boring, circular monotony. The orbit is a living, breathing thing, an elastic boundary that stretches and contracts with every passing week of the moon's existence. This constant motion through space is the primary cause of the immense tidal forces that shape the world from its icy surface to its heavy metallic core. Deep within the heart of these worlds, the constant pulling and stretching generated by their neighbours creates a subtle, pervasive warmth. This internal friction acts as a secondary heart, providing a steady flow of thermal energy that supplements the decay of radioactive elements in the rocky mantle. As your own body settles into a deeper, heavier sense of relaxation, imagine the constant, gentle kneading of the moon's interior by the hands of gravity. This process of tidal heating is the invisible flame that keeps the subsurface oceans from turning into a solid, dead block of ice throughout the eons. The energy is generated as the solid layers of the moon are squeezed and released, much like a rubber ball being worked in a steady hand. This mechanical energy is perfectly converted into heat, ensuring that the interior remains a place of liquid possibility and ongoing chemical potential. Without this perpetual massage from its sibling moons, the giant world would have long ago succumbed to the absolute zero of the outer system. The friction is a quiet, ongoing miracle of physics, a way for the very movement of the moon to sustain its own internal temperature. It is a beautiful synthesis of motion and warmth, where the dance of the heavens provides the energy for the very life of the world. Tides on the massive moon do not manifest as waves crashing against a shore, but as the slow, powerful rising and falling of the entire planetary crust. As the satellite glides closer to and further from the giant planet in its elliptical path, the solid ground itself bulges upward by several meters. It is a slow-motion inhalation and exhalation of the world itself, occurring with a mechanical regularity over the course of its 7-day journey. This rhythmic deformation reaches deep into the global ocean, causing the hidden waters to shift and flow in response to the changing gravitational pull. The entire world is in a state of constant, gentle flux, never truly settling into a rigid or unmoving shape for even a single moment. This constant movement helps to stir the buried seas, preventing stagnation and distributing the internal heat more evenly throughout the complex interior. Grounding your awareness in the stillness of your own resting frame, you can contemplate the immense power required to bend the crust of a world larger than Mercury. It is a testament to the overwhelming strength of the planetary forces at work in this system, where gravity acts as a master sculptor. This tidal breathing is the heartbeat of the moon, a rhythmic signature of its deep and ongoing connection to the worlds that share its space. Orbital mechanics dictate a strict and necessary spatial separation between these three celestial partners to ensure the entire system remains in perfect balance. The laws of the resonance ensure that the three largest moons will never crowd together on the same side of the planetary host simultaneously. This protective arrangement prevents the gravitational forces from becoming too concentrated in a single direction, which could potentially destabilize the entire family of satellites. By maintaining this specific spacing, the moons ensure that their tugs on one another are always balanced by the presence of the planet or a sibling on the opposite side. It is a cosmic game of keep away, a perfectly timed avoidance that has persisted for eons without a single recorded deviation. This spacing is the silent architecture that holds the system together, a geometric arrangement that prioritizes long-term stability over temporary proximity. Picture the three worlds as dancers on a grand stage, always aware of their partners' positions and always moving to maintain the symmetry of the performance. They are linked by an invisible bond of repulsion and attraction that keeps them in their assigned places in the dark. This spatial harmony is the primary reason the resonance has survived for billions of years, a beautiful example of self-regulating order in the deep void. If we were to look closer at the timing of these interactions, we would see a perfect and eternal repetition of force and influence. The resonance beautifully ensures that the strongest gravitational tugs from its siblings occur at the exact same points in their orbits during every single revolution. This consistency allows the energy to build up in a controlled and predictable manner, much like a child being pushed on a swing at the perfect moment of every arc. This repetitive reinforcement is what allows such a subtle force to have such a massive and lasting impact on the geology of the world. Because the pull always happens when the moon is at the same distance and orientation, the effects are cumulative, gradually shaping the interior over unimaginable stretches of time. It is the power of persistence, where small rhythmic nudges eventually add up to the heat and tectonic activity that define the moon's unique character. Surprisingly, this regularity is what allows observers on Earth to predict the movements of these distant worlds with such incredible and life-changing accuracy. The system is so reliable and so structured that it functions as a natural law of the local space, a constant in a universe often defined by chaos. These tugs are the whispers of siblings in the dark, reminding each world of its place and its purpose in the grand orbital scheme. Without this celestial rhythm and the vital heat it provides, the massive giant might have frozen solid all the way to its core long ago. The friction generated by the orbital dance is the primary reason the hidden global abyss of water has remained in a liquid state for billions of consecutive years. As your breathing becomes even more rhythmic and calm, think of this orbital resonance as the eternal furnace that keeps the moon from becoming a dead, static block of ice. It is the difference between a dynamic, active world and a cold, silent relic of the past, drifting aimlessly through its planetary system. The resonance is the engine of life for the moon, providing the energy needed to drive the magnetic dynamo and the tectonic shifts of the surface. It is a profound realization that the survival of the moon's most precious internal features depends entirely on its relationship with its neighbours in the dark. The moon is not a lonely survivor, but a collaborative partner in a system that feeds and sustains itself through constant, graceful movement. The heat of the dance is a warm embrace in the middle of a freezing void, a protection against the absolute zero of deep space. This interconnectedness is a beautiful lesson in cosmic biology, where the health of one world is inextricably linked to the motions of the whole family. Over vast stretches of millions of years, the resonance has carefully and patiently shaped the entire geological evolution of the Jovian system. The stress patterns and heat signatures generated by the dance are etched into the very ridges and grooves we see on the surface today. Every canyon and every fracture is a physical diary entry of a world that has been stretched and released by its siblings since the dawn of the system. This ongoing process of deformation has created a landscape that is unique in the solar system, a testament to the power of tidal forces on a planetary scale. The resonance has dictated when the crust would break, where the water would erupt, and how the ancient craters would be erased by new ice. It is the master architect of the world, a patient and invisible hand that has spent eons perfecting the moon's frozen appearance. If we were to look closer at the history of the entire celestial family, we would see the same signature of the resonance on every world. It is a shared heritage of movement and change, a story of three moons that have grown up together in the shadow of a giant. The resonance is the thread that binds their histories together, a common language of gravity and time that they all speak fluently. Watching their orbits simulated over vast spans of time reveals a hypnotic, eternally repeating pattern of cosmic precision that defies the chaos of the outer void. It is a clockwork masterpiece of such immense scale and accuracy that it serves as a fundamental constant in a changing universe. This final realization of the orbital dance brings a profound sense of closure to the moon's complex history. portraying a world that is not a lonely wanderer, but a vital part of a grand mechanical symphony. The patterns they trace in the dark are beautiful and complex, a series of overlapping loops and arcs that never cross or collide with one another. It is a visualization of the laws of physics made manifest in the movements of massive icy worlds. The resonance is the music of the spheres, a silent and perfect composition that has played without interruption since the beginning of the solar system's journey. In the absolute silence of the Jovian night, this dance continues with a dignity and a grace that is almost beyond human comprehension. It is a reminder that the universe is not just a collection of objects, but a series of relationships and rhythms that define the nature of reality itself. The moon orbits in peace, a giant of ice and water, forever locked in a perfect mathematical embrace with its celestial family. This celestial family shares a history that is etched forever into the dark, frozen skin of the moon, where the most ancient embrace of gravity and cosmic debris remains perfectly preserved. The Galileo Regio stands as a massive, dark, circular feature that proudly guards the moon's oldest geological secrets against the passage of eons. It is a vast continent of charcoal-hued ice, stretching across the sphere like a shadow of a time when the solar system was still finding its form. If we were to look closer at this dark expanse, we would see a landscape that has refused to be altered by the tectonic shifting seen in the younger, brighter regions. It represents the original face of the moon, a stoic witness to the birth of the giant planet and its retinue of icy followers. This ancient terrain provides a grounding connection to the distant past, allowing us to trace the lineage of the world back to its very first cooling breaths. Surprisingly, despite its immense age, the Galileo Regio remains a prominent and well-defined feature that can be seen even with modest telescopes from Earth. It serves as a reminder that some parts of a world are built to endure, surviving even the most violent eras of planetary evolution. This dark expanse is the moon's memory at its most stable, a frozen testament to the enduring nature of the deep, cold dark. Surprisingly, the forces of gravity and time work in a soft, almost fluid manner on a world where the bedrock is made entirely of water ice. Craters within the ancient regions are oddly flat, having slumped and relaxed over unimaginable spans of time as the soft icy crust slowly settled under its own weight. This process, known as viscous relaxation, slowly pulls the high peaks and deep bowls of an impact site back toward the gentle curve of the moon's sphere. Over millions of years, the once jagged rims of these craters lose their sharpness, melting into the surrounding landscape like a drop of wax on a warm table. The ice does not break like rock, but rather flows with a slow and patient persistence that eventually erases the violent geometry of a cosmic strike. This creates a surface that feels strangely soft and undulating, a land of gentle swells rather than sharp, jagged precipices. As your own body remains perfectly heavy and anchored to the surface beneath you, think of the moon's crust performing this same slow surrender to gravity. The landscape is not static, but is caught in a multi-billion-year transition toward a state of perfect, smooth equilibrium. It is a quiet, ongoing adjustment that turns every violent collision into a soft and fading memory of the distant past. This slow settling is a unique characteristic of a world that hides a warm, liquid interior beneath its frozen skin. The heat from below makes the ice just pliable enough to yield to the relentless pull of the planet's gravity over the eons. It is a beautiful, slow-motion erasure, where the moon chooses to heal itself by softly sinking back into the embrace of its own form. If we were to look closer at these ancient sites, we would discover the presence of palimpsests, often called ghost craters by those who study the secrets of the stars. These remarkable features look like bright circular smudges on the dark terrain rather than the deep, sharp bowls we typically associate with planetary impacts. They are the faded remains of once mighty collisions, now reduced to spectral outlines that whisper of a power that has long since dissipated. These ghost craters are created when the underlying ice is warm enough to flow back into the crater hole almost as soon as it is formed. What remains is a flat, bright patch of fresh ice that stands in stark contrast to the dark, dusty material of the older crust surrounding it. They appear like ancient ink that has been partially erased from a parchment, leaving only a ghostly suggestion of the original message. The visual effect is one of profound tranquility, as if the moon has gently swallowed the violence of its past and left only a shimmering memory. These smudges are scattered across the Galileo Regio, serving as markers of a time when the interior was much warmer and more active than it is today. They remind us that even the most traumatic events in a world's history can eventually be softened into a state of beautiful, quiet repose. This soft visual record is a unique characteristic of icy worlds that possess a hidden, internal warmth. The palimpsests act as a bridge between the solid surface and the liquid history buried miles below the ice. They are the fingerprints of a world that refuses to be scarred, choosing instead to heal its wounds with a layer of bright and pristine ice. Deep within the physics of this icy crust lies a behaviour that is entirely alien to the rocky, battered moon that orbits our own Earth. Unlike the rigid, unyielding silicate surfaces of terrestrial satellites, the surface of this giant world behaves more like a massive planet-wide glacier. When a cosmic projectile strikes the ice, the crust does not merely shatter. It flows and heals with a slow, deliberate grace that eventually smooths the jagged edges of the impact. This glacial flow is driven by the subtle internal heat and the immense pressures that allow the ice to move like a very thick, cold liquid over geologic timescales. A crater that would remain sharp and pristine for billions of years on a rocky world will slowly lose its form here, melting back into the global mosaic. It is a world that is constantly, imperceptibly renewing its skin, a slow-motion metabolism that softens the blows of the universe. Grounding yourself in the absolute stillness of your own frame, you can appreciate the patient pace of this planetary healing. The moon does not rush to hide its scars, but allows them to settle into a state of peaceful integration with the surrounding ice. This fundamental difference in material science defines the entire aesthetic of the world, creating a landscape that feels organic and fluid rather than cold and brittle. This structure of cosmic memory finds its most gargantuan and impressive expression in the Epigeus crater system. This massive impact site stretches quietly for hundreds of kilometers across the frozen plains, a sprawling monument to a collision of unimaginable scale. It is so large that it dominates the local geography, its concentric rings of displaced ice forming a series of frozen ripples that extend toward the distant horizon. The sheer scale of Epigeus suggests an event that would have sent tremors through the entire satellite, potentially cracking the ice all the way down to the buried ocean. Today, however, it rests in a state of absolute and perfect silence, its once towering walls having settled into the characteristic flatness of the moon's ancient terrain. It is a quiet giant, a dormant scar that speaks of a time when the Jovian system was a much more dangerous and chaotic neighbourhood. If we were to look closer at the floor of this massive system, we would find a landscape of complex, overlapping textures that tell the story of the ice's recovery. The floor is not a simple bowl, but a collection of ridges and mounds that formed as the ground rebounded following the initial strike. It is a masterpiece of impact physics, captured in a permanent state of frozen rest for all of time. Surprisingly, despite its age and scale, Epigeus remains one of the most clearly defined landmarks on the moon's surface. It acts as a primary anchor for our understanding of the bright terrain, as its formation likely triggered many of the tectonic shifts that created the surrounding grooves. It is a central node in the moon's history, a point of impact that rippled outward to define the destiny of an entire hemisphere. Surprisingly, the universe occasionally punctuates the dark and ancient canvas of the older crust with sudden bursts of brilliant, blindingly white light. These are the bright rays of fresh ice that extend outward for thousands of miles from the sites of the moon's most recent cosmic impacts. They look like delicate frozen splatters, cutting sharply across the older, darker terrain with a vibrancy that highlights the profound age of the landscape beneath them. These rays are composed of pristine, pulverized ice that was ejected high into the vacuum and then settled back onto the surface in long, straight lines. Because this material has not yet been darkened by the constant rain of cosmic dust, it reflects the distant sunlight with a startling intensity. They serve as a vivid reminder that the moon's history is not over, but continues to be written by the occasional touch of a wandering asteroid. Notice how these brilliant lines provide a sense of direction and movement to a world that otherwise appears to be caught in a state of eternal rest. They draw the eye across the curves of the sphere, linking disparate regions together through a single, violent event of the recent past. These rays are the youngest features on the moon, a fresh layer of white paint applied to a canvas that is billions of years old. As the eons pass, these rays will eventually fade, as the radiation from the gas giant and the settling of dust slowly dim their luster. For now, they stand as bright, triumphant banners of ice, announcing the arrival of new material into the moon's ancient ecosystem. They are a beautiful contradiction, a visual representation of a sudden explosion captured in a state of perfect, crystalline stillness. Long before the modern era, the moon was occasionally visited by comets that had been violently torn apart by the overwhelming gravity of the nearby gas giant. These fragments did not strike the moon as a single body, but arrived as a series of successive strikes that followed one another in rapid, rhythmic succession. This resulted in the creation of chains of craters called cateni, which indicate exactly where a broken comet struck the moon across its rotating surface. This phenomenon is a direct result of the intense tidal forces that exist within the Jovian system, capable of shredding a massive comet into a string of smaller pearls. As the satellite moves through its orbit, it acts as a target for these cosmic trains, recording the passage of each fragment with a dedicated impact bowl. The result is a landscape feature that looks less like a random accident and more like a deliberate, calculated marking of the world. These chains can stretch for hundreds of miles, cutting across ridges and plains with an uncompromising straight-line precision. They are a hauntingly beautiful reminder of the power of the nearby planet to influence the fate of everything within its reach. Within the silence of the moon's night, these cateni stand as a rhythmic tally of the comets that once wandered through this sector of the dark. This phenomenon of serial impact is most perfectly and elegantly preserved in the Enki catena, a formation that defies typical planetary expectations. This specific chain features a perfectly straight and peaceful line of 13 distinct impact bowls, each roughly the same size as its neighbours. It looks like a row of frozen beads placed carefully upon the ice, a sequence of events that occurred in a matter of minutes but will last for billions of years. The symmetry of the Enki catena is so profound that it almost appears artificial, a series of identical markings created by a rhythmic mechanical process. Each of the 13 craters is a testament to a specific fragment of a comet that met its end in a sequence of rapid-fire collisions. This alignment provides a rare glimpse into the dynamics of cometary fragmentation, frozen in a state of absolute and permanent tranquility. Let your breathing fall into a steady, even count of 13 as you visualize this perfect row of ancient scars. The Enki catena is a landmark of incredible mathematical beauty, a line that cuts through the chaos of the surrounding terrain with a sense of purpose. It is one of the most famous features on the moon, a cosmic punctuation mark that defines the scale and the timing of the Jovian environment. Deep within the bowls of these 13 craters, the ice is shaded from the sun, preserving a micro-environment of absolute darkness and cold. They are a series of 13 silent rooms, each holding onto the debris of the same comet that once travelled through the deep void. This straight line of history is a masterpiece of celestial timing, a perfect record of a comet's final, fragmented descent into the ice. The study of these ancient scars provides the most reliable and sophisticated map of the Moon's long journey through time. By carefully counting the number of craters within a specific area, patient astronomers can accurately estimate the age of different surface regions with incredible precision. This method, known as crater counting, relies on the steady and predictable rate of cosmic impacts that has occurred throughout the history of the solar system. The dark, ancient plains are densely packed with overlapping craters, indicating a surface that has remained largely unchanged for billions of consecutive years. In contrast, the bright groove terrain possesses far fewer craters, proving that it was resurfaced by internal activity much later in the Moon's life. This allows us to construct a detailed timeline of the Moon's evolution, identifying exactly when the crust broke and the waters erupted. This process requires a level of patience that matches the slow, glacial pace of the Moon itself, as every tiny smudge and bowl must be catalogued. It is a form of planetary archaeology, where the depth and frequency of the scars reveal the hidden layers of the world's biography. We're able to see not just what the Moon looks like today, but how it has changed over the staggering stretches of cosmic time. As you remain in a state of heavy, grounded rest, consider the billions of impacts that have contributed to this massive dataset of history. Every crater is a data point, a specific moment of contact between the Moon and the wider universe that has been recorded for our observation. This density of memory is what makes the Moon such a valuable record of the early solar system, a place where the history of the universe is written in the language of impacts. If we were to look closer at the finality of these impact sites, we would find a world that refuses to forget even the smallest touch from the void. Every single impact site on the Moon is permanently and perfectly preserved in the vacuum of space, entirely untouched by the erosive forces of wind or rain. Without an atmosphere to drive weather patterns or biological life to shift the soil, the surface of the Moon remains exactly as it was at the moment of its most recent transformation. This means that a crater formed 4 billion years ago can look nearly as fresh as one created yesterday, provided the underlying ice has not relaxed. The silence of the vacuum acts as a perfect preservative, shielding the geological record from the decay that would inevitably erase it on a planet like Earth. It is a world of eternal stillness, where the only change comes from the slow internal flow of the ice or the rare addition of a new scar. This absolute preservation allows us to study the history of the solar system with a clarity that is impossible on more active, atmospheric worlds. The Moon is a pristine laboratory of impact physics, where every detail of a collision is captured in a permanent state of crystalline rest. It is the ultimate museum of cosmic history, a place where the artifacts are the very plains and ridges of the world itself. In the absolute dark of the Jovian night, these ancient scars wait in a state of perfect, undisturbed peace for the next explorer to pass by. They are the enduring legacy of a world that has spent eons gathering the stories of the stars and holding them close to its frozen heart. This final layer of preservation ensures that the Moon's history will never be lost, a permanent record of the ancient embrace between a giant of ice and the infinite reaches of the void. Within the infinite reaches of the void, there exists a presence so delicate it almost escapes the notice of the stars themselves. This giant world possesses an incredibly tenuous atmosphere, a diaphanous veil made almost entirely of invisible oxygen that clings to the icy surface like a ghostly memory. It is not the thick blue sky of a world like Earth, but rather a transparent and fragile envelope that offers no resistance to the crushing darkness of space. This flimsy sky exists as a mere whisper of matter, a collection of solitary molecules drifting across the charcoal plains without ever gathering enough density to scatter the light. If one were to stand upon the frozen ridges, the sky above would remain as black as the deepest abyss, even as the sun's faint light glints off the frost. It is a sky that does not offer a breath of life, but instead serves as a silent witness to the Moon's isolation in the outer system. The presence of this oxygen is a magnificent chemical anomaly, a hidden layer of complexity that defies the expectations of a world so far from the sun's warmth. It represents the very limit of what a moon can hold, a thin boundary where the solid ground slowly transitions into the absolute nothingness of the vacuum. This invisible sky is the final, fragile layer of the world's identity, a breath of gas held briefly before it is lost forever to the stars. Surprisingly, the universe has designed a quiet and invisible laboratory on the surface of this world to generate its own ghostly atmosphere. Radiation from the nearby gas giant constantly and relentlessly bathes the surface ice, acting as a high-energy catalyst that quietly splits frozen water molecules into their fundamental parts. This ongoing process, known as radiolysis, turns the massive plains of ice into a source of gas as the radiant rain from the magnetosphere strikes the ground. As you feel your body sinking deeper into a state of total grounded relaxation, imagine this microscopic rain falling across the moon for billions of years without end. It is a transformation of solid into gas that occurs in absolute silence, a planetary metabolism that requires no warmth to function. The moon is a world that is literally coming apart at the molecular level, its very essence being teased out by the invisible hand of radiation. If we were to look closer at the molecular dance occurring just above the frozen ground, we would witness a subtle and permanent separation of elements. Because hydrogen is the lightest of all atoms, it quickly gains enough speed from the radiation strikes to overcome the moon's gentle gravitational pull and escape into space almost instantly. The heavier oxygen atoms, however, are far more lethargic, lacking the velocity to achieve a clean break from the world that birthed them. Consequently, the oxygen temporarily and gently lingers near the ground, settling into a thin, horizontal layer that hugs the contours of the craters and tectonic ridges. It forms a shallow, invisible lake of gas that follows the moon's every move, tethered to the ice by a weak but persistent gravitational anchor. This selective retention creates a sky that is uniquely pure, a concentrated residue of the water that makes up the moon's massive frozen crust. The oxygen molecules drift through the shadows of the canyons, bumping into the ancient ice and each other in a slow-motion choreography of survival. They are the heavier fragments of a shattered molecule, stay-at-homes in a system where the hydrogen has already fled to the furthest reaches of the Jovian system. This lingering presence is what allows the moon to claim a sky at all, a temporary reprieve from the absolute emptiness that defines its neighbours. In this vacuum-like environment, sound has no medium through which to travel, leaving the landscape in a state of eternal, ringing silence. Even if the ground were to crack or a meteor were to strike, the atmosphere would remain entirely unmoved, incapable of carrying a single vibration. It is a sky that exists only as a chemical presence, a layer of gas that has all the ingredients of air but none of the behaviours of an atmosphere. Deep within the invisible chemical interactions of this high, thin sky, traces of ozone have been detected lingering like a ghostly signature. This molecule is created when charged particles from the surrounding environment softly interact with the lingering oxygen, binding three atoms together into a more complex form. It is a process of molecular fusion that mirrors the creation of the ozone layer on Earth, yet it occurs here in a state of extreme and delicate dilution. The detection of ozone is a profound indicator of the moon's chemical activity, proving that the sky is not a stagnant pool, but a dynamic, reacting environment. These molecules catch specific frequencies of ultraviolet light, acting as a faint spectral filter that scientists can observe from hundreds of millions of miles away. It adds a layer of chemical sophistication to the moon's profile, suggesting that even a flimsy sky can host a variety of molecular species. As your resting body feels increasingly heavy and centered, consider the silent formation of these ozone molecules in the dark. They are born from the collision of radiation and gas, a spark of complexity in an otherwise simple and frozen world. The ozone is a silent guardian of the moon's history, a chemical byproduct that tells the story of the intense energies that constantly sculpt the Jovian satellites. This extreme low pressure means that the Moon does not experience any of the atmospheric heating or insulation that a thicker sky would provide. The surface remains entirely exposed to the cold of space, with the oxygen molecules acting more like independent travellers than a cohesive fluid. It is a sky that provides no protection, a veil so thin that it might as well be invisible to the forces that govern the Moon's temperature. This vacuum-like sky is the ultimate expression of the Moon's fragile hold on its own material. It is a world that is nearly naked, dressed only in a few wandering atoms that have not yet found the exit. To exist within this pressure is to exist on the very edge of the void, where the boundary between somewhere and nowhere is a line of oxygen so thin it cannot be felt. Deep within the annals of modern astronomy, the discovery of this hidden sky required a level of patience that matches the Moon's own slow evolution. Because the oxygen is entirely invisible to traditional cameras, the Hubble Space Telescope had to peer very carefully to detect the faint spectral signature of these escaping gases. By looking at the way the Moon blocked specific wavelengths of far ultraviolet light, the telescope was able to see the silhouette of the atmosphere for the first time. This observation was a masterpiece of cosmic detective work, using the light of distant stars to illuminate a presence that is otherwise lost in the dark. The spectral lines revealed a glowing ultraviolet halo surrounding the Moon, a clear and undeniable proof that it was breathing out its own oxygen. It was a moment of scientific triumph that turned a theoretical possibility into a concrete, mapped reality of the deep system. The data sent back by the telescope allowed us to measure the height and density of this invisible sky with incredible accuracy. We discovered that the atmosphere extends for hundreds of miles into space, a vast but incredibly thin cloud that slowly tapers off into the Jovian magnetosphere. This spectral signature is the Moon's unique voice, a faint whisper that we have finally learned how to hear across the immense gulf of space. As the Moon slowly rotates and the Sun's weak rays move across the charcoal and ivory plains, the slight touch of distant warmth triggers a gentle planetary exhalation. During the Moon's long days, the rise in temperature, though still hundreds of degrees below zero, is enough to agitate the ice at the surface. This slight warming causes a few more gas molecules to be released into the fragile envelope, increasing the density of the sky ever so slightly as the day progresses. This rhythmic increase in atmospheric pressure is a slow-motion heartbeat for the world, a daily cycle of release and expansion. The oxygen molecules gain a burst of kinetic energy from the Sun, rising higher above the craters and ridges in a diaphanous upward swell. It is a period of atmospheric noon, where the Moon's flimsy sky reaches its peak density, creating a slightly more robust shield against the void. Grounding yourself in the heavy, calm stillness of your own resting frame, you can visualize this molecular swell occurring with the slow rotation of the giant world. The ice yields its atoms to the light in a process that is as steady and predictable as the tides. This daytime release is a testament to the Moon's sensitivity to even the most distant source of energy, a world that breathes in response to the arrival of the Sun. When the deep, cold shadow of the Jovian night eventually falls across the landscape, the atmosphere begins a silent and graceful retreat. As the temperature drops even further into the absolute freezing dark, the oxygen atmosphere partially and quietly freezes back onto the surface in a process called condensation. The molecules lose their energy and settle back into the cracks of the ice, returning to the solid state from which they were born hours or days before. This cycle of freezing and thawing is a beautiful illustration of the Moon's extreme thermal environment, where the state of matter can change with the shifting shadows. The night sky is even emptier than the day sky, as the Moon pulls its flimsy veil back toward its frozen heart for warmth. It is a world of constant molecular recycling, where the sky is never lost, but merely put to sleep beneath the stars. This cycle of invisible particles is not a permanent fixture of the world, but rather a fleeting collection of atoms caught in an endless loop of creation and loss. The sky we see today is not the same sky that existed 1 million years ago. It is a transient phenomenon, endlessly created by radiation and endlessly fading into the cosmic void. Every molecule of oxygen is a temporary visitor, a fragment of the moon's water that is pausing briefly before continuing its journey into interstellar space. In the final synthesis of the moon's identity, this flimsy sky is the ultimate symbol of its delicate balance. It is a giant world that is both incredibly massive and incredibly fragile, holding on to its identity with a grip of invisible oxygen. This sky is the moon's final layer of preservation, a diaphanous armour that protects its secrets even as it fades into the infinite reaches of the void. Beyond that diaphanous armour of oxygen, the solid ground reveals a world of violent beauty and structured chaos that has been etched into the ice over unimaginable eons. The bright terrain of this giant moon is wonderfully dominated by massive parallel grooves known scientifically as sulci, which transform the surface into a rhythmic corrugated landscape. These sweeping formations create a visual texture so complex that they resemble the fingerprints of a world that has been repeatedly stretched and pulled by invisible hands. Each individual groove is a testament to the immense power of the moon's internal evolution, representing a moment when the very skin of the world was forced to buckle. Unlike the random scattering of craters on the dark plains, these sulci are organised into vast systematic arrays that flow across the sphere like frozen rivers of glass. They define the youngest regions of the crust, where the history of the moon's most active and turbulent eras is written in a language of crystalline ridges and deep, icy troughs. As the faint sunlight glints off these thousands of parallel lines, the surface takes on a mesmerising metallic sheen that highlights the sheer scale of the geological drama. This bright terrain is not merely a feature, but a global signature of a world that refused to remain static or dormant in the deep cold. The sulci are the primary architects of the moon's modern face, a sprawling network of fractures that capture the light and the imagination in equal measure. Deep within these bright swathes of land, the topography drops away into staggering abysses that challenge our earthly perception of scale. Some of these icy canyons are up to 700 meters deep and stretch on for thousands of miles across the curved horizon, slicing through the crust like deep wounds in a planetary shell. To stand at the edge of such a rift would be to gaze into a vertiginous drop of sheer blue-tinted ice, where the shadows at the bottom remain as dark as the surrounding void. These canyons are far more than simple cracks. They are continental-scale geological features that dwarf the most famous valleys on our own homeworld. The walls of these rifts are likely composed of layered ice, preserving a vertical history of the moon's formation that has been exposed by the violent tearing of the ground. Because the gravity of the moon is relatively low, these towering icy cliffs can maintain their staggering heights without collapsing, standing as eternal sentinels over the shadowed depths below. Imagine the absolute silence that fills these gargantuan troughs, where no wind ever blows and no sound ever breaks the stillness. They are massive corridors of ice that guide the eye across the immense circumference of the moon, linking distant regions together in a single, continuous line of geological history. These deep canyons serve as a profound reminder of the enormous energy required to fracture a world of this size, leaving behind a landscape of extreme verticality and haunting frozen grandeur. Uruk-Sulcus stands as a spectacular example of this geological drama, gently displaying intricate patterns of tectonic fracturing for any wandering eye. This specific region is a masterclass in planetary stress, where the ice has been pulled, twisted, and pushed into a complex lattice of ridges and valleys that defy simple description. It is one of the most studied areas on the moon's surface, acting as a primary key for scientists attempting to decode the violent movements of the frozen crust. As your own muscles release their last echoes of tension, and your body settles into a state of heavy, peaceful rest, consider the patient forces that created this landmark. The fracturing at Uruk-Sulcus is so detailed that it resembles the fine grain of a piece of ancient wood, yet it is executed on a scale that covers thousands of square kilometers. Every ridge is a mountain of ice, and every groove is a deep valley, forming a landscape that is both terrifyingly massive and delicately beautiful. This region provides a visual record of a time when the moon's interior was alive with movement, forcing the surface to adapt to the changing pressures from below. The intricate patterns are not random, but follow the invisible stress lines of the entire satellite, mapping out the history of its expansion. Uruk Sulcus is a silent monument to a time of planetary change, a frozen snapshot of a world caught in the act of reinventing itself. This structure of towering formations suggests that the Moon once experienced extreme periods of global expansion and internal stretching. As the world grew from within, perhaps due to the gradual warming or shifting of its hidden global ocean, the rigid outer shell was forced to expand far beyond its original limits. This internal pressure put a staggering amount of tension on the icy crust, which eventually reached its breaking point and shattered into the complex patterns we see today. The expansion was not a single event, but likely a slow and rhythmic process that occurred over millions of years as the Moon's internal chemistry evolved. This growth forced the existing dark terrain to split apart, creating the space for the newer, bright terrain to emerge and fill the gaps. It is a story of a world that literally outgrew its own skin, leaving behind a permanent record of its struggle to contain the vast liquid reservoir resting in the dark depths. As you feel the steady rhythm of your own breathing, visualize the Moon itself expanding with the same patient and irresistible force. The surface is a map of this growth, where every ridge and groove represents a specific moment of adjustment to the Moon's increasing volume. These formations are the planetary equivalent of stretch marks, born from a period of intense internal development that transformed the satellite into a complex, multi-layered giant. Surprisingly, the universe utilized water and slush rather than molten rock to smooth and reshape these vast fractured areas through the process of cryovolcanism. Liquid water and salt-rich slush softly erupted from the deep rifts during the peak of the Moon's expansion, flooding the low-lying valleys and erasing the older cratered terrain. This freezing flood acted as a celestial resurfacing agent, creating the brilliant, highly reflective plains that define the Moon's bright terrain today. The material that emerged from the depths was likely a thick, viscous mixture that flowed slowly across the landscape, filling in the gaps and smoothing over the jagged edges of the broken crust. As this watery lava settled into the freezing temperatures of the surface, it solidified into pristine sheets of ice, creating a blank canvas upon which the next sets of grooves could be carved. This process of icy volcanism provided the Moon with a way to heal its wounds, while simultaneously creating a more complex and varied geography. This unique form of volcanism highlights the profound role of water as a geological force in the outer solar system, where it behaves much like the basaltic rock of terrestrial planets. The Moon is a world where the eruptions are freezing rather than scorching, and where the mountains are made of the same substance that fills our own oceans. This icy recycling program has ensured that the Moon's surface remains one of the most dynamic and visually striking landscapes in the entire Jovian system. If we were to look closer, the ridges strongly resemble the tectonic fault lines found on Earth, yet they are carved entirely out of pure, unyielding water ice. This striking similarity in form highlights the universal nature of physical laws, where the same patterns of stress and failure produce the same structures regardless of the material. On this distant world, however, the mountains are frozen water, and the tectonic plates are massive sheets of ice floating over a dark and watery abyss. The mechanics of the Moon's crustal movement mirror the shifting of the Earth's continents as the icy plates slide against, over, and under one another in a slow-motion tectonic dance. This process has created mountain ranges of ice that rival the height and complexity of rocky ranges on our own planet, all formed by the same principles of compression and tension. It is a profound realization that the most fundamental processes of geology are not limited to rock, but can be expressed just as beautifully in the medium of frozen water. Feel the steady weight of your own presence against the surface beneath you, much like the weight of these massive icy plates as they rest upon the world's hidden depths. The landscape is a testament to the power of ice to mimic the behavior of stone when subjected to the extreme cold and pressure of the deep solar system. This icy tectonism has created a world of familiar shapes built from alien materials, a bridge between the rocky inner planets and the frozen giants of the outer void. Stresses from the massive gravity of Jupiter likely provided the steady, invisible force needed to crack the thick planetary shell of this moon. As the satellite orbits the gas giant, the shifting gravitational pull creates a constant kneading effect that generates immense internal tension and heat. This celestial tug-of-war eventually became too much for the frozen crust to bear, causing it to shatter and shift in response to the planet's overwhelming presence. The planet acts as a master sculptor, using its gravitational field to bend and pull the moon into new configurations over billions of consecutive years. This tidal stretching is the primary engine behind the moon's tectonic activity, providing the energy needed to drive the expansion of the crust and the eruptions of the cryovolcanoes. It is a relationship of constant influence, where the giant planet's proximity dictates the very shape of the landscape on its largest companion. Without the relentless gravity of Jupiter, this world would likely be a cold and static sphere, devoid of the complex ridges and grooves that define its modern face. The planet's influence is woven into every fracture and every ridge, a silent and invisible force that has spent eons perfecting the moon's appearance. It is a beautiful example of how the gravity of a distant world can reach across the void to fundamentally alter the destiny of an entire planetary body. A careful examination of these regions reveals overlapping groove sets that softly indicate multiple, distinct periods of surface renewal and subsequent freezing. These patterns show that the moon did not fracture in a single event, but underwent several global episodes of activity separated by vast stretches of time. Each new layer of fractures cuts through the previous one, creating a complex chronological map of the moon's active past written in the ice. This layering of history allows us to trace the evolution of the moon's internal energy, as the orientation and scale of the grooves changed with each new era. The oldest grooves are often cross-cut by younger ones, showing how the stress patterns of the entire world shifted as it moved through its long orbital history. It is a palimpsest of tectonics, a record of a world that refused to stay static, repeatedly tearing its own skin to allow the interior to breathe and adjust. Grounding your awareness in the absolute stillness of your own frame, you can appreciate the immense stretches of time required to build such a complex geological record. Each set of grooves represents millions of years of activity, a slow and patient construction of a landscape that is as deep as it is wide. The surface is a library of the moon's struggles, where the pages are made of ice, and the story is one of constant rhythmic change. Travelling across this alien terrain would require navigating a majestic, terrifying maze of towering icy ridges and deep, shadowed valleys that stretch endlessly toward the horizon. The landscape is a labyrinth of crystalline peaks and plunging rifts, where the orientation of the sun creates a constantly shifting play of brilliant light and absolute darkness. It is a world of extreme verticality, where every step would reveal a new perspective on the moon's fractured beauty and its staggering geological diversity. The scale of this maze is so gargantuan that a traveller could easily be lost within a single groove set, surrounded on all sides by walls of ice that reach toward the black sky. Moving from the crest of a ridge down into the floor of a valley would be a journey of hundreds of meters, a descent into a world of deep shadows and ancient frozen slush. It is a landscape that demands respect for its scale, offering a sensory experience that is entirely defined by the moon's internal power and the planet's gravitational pull. Imagine the perspective from the top of one of these ridges, looking out over a sea of parallel lines that curve away into the distance with mathematical precision. The horizon would be a jagged line of white and blue, marking the limits of a world that is as complex and varied as any planet near the Sun. This maze of ice is the ultimate expression of the Moon's tectonic identity, a landscape that is as challenging to navigate as it is beautiful to behold. This landscape of frozen tectonics created a world that looks violently disrupted and shattered, yet it now rests in a state of perfect, eternal stillness. All the energy that once tore the crust apart and sent water erupting into the vacuum has long since dissipated, leaving behind a silent monument to ancient planetary power. It is a peaceful graveyard of tectonic struggle, where the violence of the past has been perfectly preserved in the enduring cold of the present. The once active rifts and the once flowing slush have been frozen into a permanent configuration, a record of a time when the Moon was a restless engine of geological transformation. This final state of repose is a testament to the Moon's ability to hold on to its history, protecting the evidence of its turbulent evolution within a shell of unyielding ice. It is a world that has finally found peace after eons of internal conflict, a giant of ice that now orbits its host in a state of tranquil, frozen perfection. In the absolute silence of the Jovian night, these great grooves and towering ridges wait in the dark, a masterpiece of natural engineering that defies the chaos of the void. They are the enduring legacy of a world that grew too large for its own skin, a beautiful and complex signature of a history that is as profound as it is ancient. This final realization of the Moon's tectonic journey brings a sense of awe to its complex surface, portraying a world that is both a violent survivor and a silent, crystalline work of art. This crystalline work of art is far more than a mere surface of fractured ice, for its true beauty lies in a hidden architecture that reaches thousands of miles into the dark. Among all the celestial bodies that wander the outer solar system, this giant satellite is recognized as the most thoroughly differentiated moon in existence. This means that throughout the long, patient eons of its formation, gravity has meticulously sorted its materials into perfectly separated internal layers. The denser, heavier materials have all migrated toward the center, while the lighter ices have risen to form the outer shells. This planetary organization is so precise that it resembles a masterfully crafted puzzle, where every component has found its rightful place according to its weight and nature. It is a state of absolute geological maturity, representing a world that has fully realized its own structural potential through billions of years of silent cooling. Surprisingly, this high degree of differentiation is a rarity, setting the world apart from other moons that remain a jumbled mix of ice and stone. It suggests a history of intense internal melting, a time when the entire globe was warm enough to allow its components to flow and sort themselves. Today, the Moon rests in this perfectly layered configuration, a monument to the relentless sorting power of gravity acting upon a colossal cooling sphere. Descending from the vacuum of space, we first encounter the outermost shell, an incredibly cold and rigid layer of ice that acts as the Moon's silent bedrock. This massive frozen crust is hundreds of kilometers thick, a fortress of solid water that has been hardened by the absolute zero of the Jovian environment. It is the primary foundation for the great grooves and ancient craters we see from above, providing the necessary strength to support the Moon's staggering topography. This rigid shell remains largely unaffected by the subtle warmth leaking from the interior, standing as a cold sentinel against the radiation and the vacuum. It is a world of permanent frost, where the ice has acquired the strength and durability of granite, resisting the tides that pull at the layers below. Every mountain of ice and every shadowed canyon is carved into this unyielding skin, a testament to the durability of water in the deep system. If we were to look closer at the base of this crust, we would find a boundary where the ice begins to yield to the slow-rising heat from the depths. This rigid layer is the Moon's first defense, a planetary shield that preserves the delicate liquid secrets buried far beneath the surface. It is a layer of ultimate stillness, a frozen roof that has remained locked in place since the last great tectonic upheavals of the Moon's past. Surprisingly, The universe has hidden a much softer and more dynamic layer of ice directly below this rigid and unyielding outer crust. This deeper region is warmer and more pliable, existing in a state where the ice can slowly and patiently convect heat upward from the buried ocean. It does not flow like a liquid, but it moves with a glacial, agonizingly slow rhythm that helps distribute thermal energy throughout the moon's massive interior. This pliable ice acts as a bridge between the frozen surface and the watery depths, carrying the whispers of the moon's internal activity toward the skin. The slow, rolling currents within this layer are the primary cause of the stresses that occasionally crack the rigid bedrock above, driving the tectonic evolution of the world. It is a hidden, churning engine of ice, a layer that proves the moon is not just a cold stone, but a world with a complex circulating metabolism. Notice how your own breathing has become a steady, rhythmic cycle that echoes the slow-motion convection of these deep icy currents. As your body rests in total stillness, the pliable layers of the moon continue their multi-million-year journey of movement and heat exchange. This internal circulation is the key to the moon's longevity, a way for the satellite to manage its energy and maintain its complex, multi-layered identity in the dark. Passing deeply through the final barriers of pliable ice, one would eventually breach the dark ceiling of the global saltwater ocean. This transition from solid to liquid is a moment of profound cosmic mystery, marking the entry into an abyss that has never known the touch of sunlight. The ceiling of this sea is a vast inverted landscape of frozen water, a dark and jagged roof that stretches around the entire circumference of the world. This ocean is not a localized pool, but a truly global sea that contains more water than all the basins of Earth combined, held in a state of pressurized liquid suspension. The waters here are cold and salty, moving with a slow and heavy grace beneath the weight of the 100-kilometer ice shell. It is a realm of ultimate darkness, where the only light would be the rare, energetic spark of a chemical reaction, or the faint glow of an internal heat source. If we were to look closer at the chemistry of these depths, we would find a reservoir of ancient water that has been sealed away from the universe for eons. This hidden sea is the moon's most precious secret, a liquid world that exists in defiance of the freezing temperatures of the outer solar system. It is a sanctuary of water, a place where the primitive ingredients of a planetary system remain held in a state of perfect watery rest. Deep within the lowest reaches of this watery abyss, the liquid gives way to a solid rocky mantle composed of silicates much like our own Earth's interior. This massive layer provides the heavy structural core of the moon, a world of stone and mineral that rests beneath the global ocean and the thick ice. The silicates here have been compressed by the weight of the world above into a dense and rigid foundation, anchoring the moon's complex layers. The presence of this rocky mantle is what allows the moon to maintain such a massive size and a stable gravitational presence in the Jovian system. It is a landscape of ancient stone, likely rich in minerals that have been altered by their long, intimate contact with the salt-rich waters above. This rocky layer is the primary source of the moon's internal heat, radiating the energy born from the radioactive decay of elements trapped within the stone. This structure mirrors the fundamental anatomy of terrestrial planets, reminding us that even the icy moons of the outer system are built on a bedrock of familiar rock. The mantle is a world of extreme pressure and heat, a subterranean wilderness of silicates that remains entirely hidden from the stars. It is the solid heart of the satellite, a rocky sphere that supports the weight of the ocean and the ice in a state of eternal equilibrium. The boundary where the global liquid water meets the resting rocky mantle is a region of intense scientific wonder and chemical potential. This interface is the site of constant exchange as the salty water dissolves minerals from the rock and carries them into the currents of the ocean. It is the primary point where the chemistry of the moon's core meets the chemistry of its water, creating an environment that is rich in the building blocks of complexity. Notice how the weight of your own body settling into a state of deep rest mirrors the immense pressure at this profound planetary interface. Here, miles beneath the ice and water, the conditions are stable and protected, offering a sanctuary for chemical reactions that could never occur on the radiation-blasted surface. This boundary is the true frontier of the world, a place where the energy of the core and the solvent of the ocean work together in the dark. Surprisingly, the universe may have created a world of hidden biological potential in the absolute darkness of this rocky sea floor. The interaction between the water and the silicates produces a unique chemical signature that could theoretically sustain a variety of microscopic life forms. It is a place of ultimate discovery, a boundary that represents the absolute limit of our current understanding of the moon's internal life. Beneath the heavy currents of the global sea, hydrothermal vents might gently bubble at the ocean floor, potentially providing a quiet source of chemical energy. These vents are the gateways to the moon's deepest heat, where water circulates through the cracks in the rocky mantle and emerges enriched with minerals and warmth. They would appear as shimmering plumes in the darkness, a series of silent underwater volcanoes that feed the chemistry of the abyss. The energy provided by these vents is not born from sunlight, but from the radioactive heart and the tidal squeezing of the world itself. This hydrothermal activity would create localized hotspots in the cold ocean, driving circulation and providing the nutrients necessary for complex molecular evolution. It is a vision of a world that is self-sustaining, a planetary metabolism that operates entirely independently of the sun's distant influence. This hidden volcanism transforms the ocean floor into a dynamic and active landscape, a place of constant renewal and chemical flux. The vents are the life-giving breath of the interior, a way for the moon to share its deeper secrets with the waters that surround it. Within the absolute silence of the abyss, these vents continue their rhythmic, bubbling performance, a testament to the enduring power of the moon's hidden energy. At the absolute centre of this layered world rests a dense and heavy core made primarily of sleeping iron and iron sulfide. This metallic heart is the anchor of the entire satellite, representing the final destination for the heaviest elements that coalesce during the moon's early formation. It is a sphere of extreme density and pressure, where the atoms are packed into a rigid or semi-liquid state that defines the moon's total mass. If we were to look closer at this iron heart, we would find a realm of physics that is entirely removed from the reality of the surface. The temperatures and pressures at this depth are fiercer than anything found in the outer layers, keeping the core in a state of perpetual glowing warmth. This core is the foundation of the world, a heavy metallic seed that has been preserved in the darkness of the interior for billions of years. Surprisingly, the universe has ensured that this metallic core remains partially warm and liquid, a vital condition that generates the moon's unique magnetic heartbeat. The constant tidal squeezing from the nearby gas giant and the decay of internal elements provide the energy needed to keep this iron from solidifying completely. This molten state allows for the convection of liquid metal, a churning movement that births the magnetic field we observe from space. This magnetic pulse is the moon's most active and energetic signature, a sign that its central heart is still beating after nearly 5 billion years of history. The liquid iron acts as a planetary dynamo, converting the mechanical energy of the moon's rotation into the invisible force of magnetism. It is a profound realization that a moon can possess a heart as active and powerful as a primary planet, humming with its own internally generated power. As your resting mind drifts further into a state of tranquil stillness, consider this invisible magnetic heartbeat pulsing through every layer of the world. It is a constant, enduring rhythm that links the iron core to the tenuous sky, a thread of energy that binds the moon's diverse layers into a single, functioning unit. This magnetic heartbeat is the ultimate proof of the moon's internal vitality, a sign that the giant of ice still possesses a soul of liquid fire. From this iron heart all the way to its frosty skin, the Moon resembles a perfectly structured and peacefully resting cosmic sphere. Every layer has been placed with a sense of mathematical precision, from the dense metallic centre to the hidden rocky mantle, the global ocean, and the final shells of ice. It is a world in a state of perfect balance, a differentiated giant that has found its final, stable form in the cold of the outer system. This final realization of the Moon's anatomy brings a sense of profound awe to the study of the solar system, revealing a satellite that is as complex and layered as any planet. It is not just a rock, but a masterpiece of planetary engineering, a world that has used gravity and time to organize itself into a state of ultimate perfection. The Moon orbits in a state of eternal rest, a layered world that hides its greatest treasures within its perfectly sorted depths. In the absolute silence of the Jovian night, this structure continues its journey through the void, a silent survivor that has fully realized its own planetary destiny. It stands as a testament to the power of organization and the enduring nature of a world that is built to last for eternity. The Moon is a perfectly structured sphere of ice and rock, a silent and beautiful work of art that continues to orbit its host in a state of tranquil, layered perfection. This tranquil, layered perfection remained an undisturbed secret for the vast majority of human existence, a silent monument to the deep solar system's ancient beginnings. That era of mystery began to dissolve in the early 1970s when a small pioneering machine ventured into the high radiation environment of the Jovian system. Pioneer 10 was the very first spacecraft to catch a fleeting, distant glimpse of this massive moon, acting as a robotic scout for the generations of explorers that would eventually follow. As the probe hurtled through the dark vacuum, it beamed back grainy, simplistic signals that represented humanity's first close-up look at a world larger than Mercury. These initial images were enough to prove that the giant satellite was not a featureless ball of ice, but a complex world with its own distinct character and topography. This first encounter was the catalyst for a fundamental shift in our cosmic perspective, turning a distant point of light into a destination for our collective curiosity. Building upon those first grainy glimpses, the twin Voyager probes swept through the system several years later, fundamentally transforming our understanding of this frozen titan. These sophisticated robotic travelers quietly revealed the stunning complexity of the Moon's surface, capturing thousands of high-resolution images of the grooved and cratered landscape. It was through their lenses that we first witnessed the stark contrast between the ancient, battered dark regions and the younger, fractured bright plains. Surprisingly, the universe revealed a landscape far more intricate and dynamic than anyone had predicted, featuring towering ridges and canyons that stretched across the entire globe. The Voyager data allowed scientists to begin mapping the Moon in detail, identifying for the first time the massive tectonic structures and the unique patterns of its surface evolution. Within these images lay the evidence of a world that had once been alive with geological activity, reshaping itself in response to internal pressures. Deep within the intense magnetic environment of the Jovian neighbourhood, the Galileo spacecraft spent many years gracefully looping through the system to perform a series of focused, intricate studies. This orbital mission allowed for multiple close flybys of the Moon, bringing our robotic instruments within a few hundred kilometres of the frozen ridged surface. If we were to look back at this mission, we would see a masterpiece of celestial navigation that allowed us to study every facet of the Moon's complex personality. Every pass provided a new perspective on the Moon's geology, chemistry, and internal structure, peeling back the layers of its history with every high-resolution photograph. The spacecraft acted as a long-term resident of the system, witnessing the slow passage of time and the subtle changes in the environment surrounding the massive Moon. It was this sustained presence that allowed us to gather the data necessary to construct our first truly comprehensive models of the Moon's multi-layered and differentiated interior. Surprisingly, the most world-changing discovery of the entire mission was made by an instrument designed not to see, but to feel the invisible forces of the deep void. It was the sensitive magnetometer on the Galileo spacecraft that made the shocking, silent discovery of the Moon's own internal magnetic field as it passed through the local environment. This single piece of data revealed a beating heart of molten iron deep within the Moon, a phenomenon that had previously been thought impossible for a satellite. This invisible hum is the primary reason we now view the icy giant as a dynamic and active world, rather than a cold, dead relic of the past. Notice how your own pulse remains a steady, comforting rhythm, while you contemplate this massive sphere generating its own magnetic pulse millions of miles away. The discovery of this field forever altered the course of planetary science, proving that even a frozen moon can possess the internal energy and structural complexity of a primary planet. Moving forward into a new era of exploration, the Juno spacecraft arrived in the Jovian system to continue the work of unraveling the secrets of the giant and its family. High above the cloud tops of Jupiter, the probe performed a rapid and sweeping flyby of the Moon, capturing highly detailed optical images that provided a fresh look at the ancient terrain. These photographs were taken with modern technology, revealing the fine textures and subtle colour variations of the ice with a clarity that was previously unimaginable. If we were to look closer at the data returned by these modern flybys, we would find an incredible map that reveals the true chemical diversity of the Moon's frozen skin. These beautiful images allowed scientists to carefully and meticulously map the distribution of different types of ice and organic compounds across the massive surface. By analysing the way the ice reflects different wavelengths of light, we have been able to identify regions of pure water frost, salt-rich deposits, and ancient carbonaceous dust. These maps provide a clear visual record of the Moon's geological processes, showing where the water has erupted from below and where the ancient crust has been preserved for billions of years. By understanding the distribution of these materials, we can begin to reconstruct the history of the Moon's internal ocean and its interactions with the harsh Jovian environment. This chemical atlas is a vital tool for the next generation of explorers, guiding them toward the most promising sites for the search for hidden life. Looking toward the future, the European Space Agency launched the JUICE mission with the specific goal of conducting a deep and thorough study of this moon and its quiet, icy siblings. The name of the mission itself reflects the profound focus on the water-rich worlds that orbit the massive gas giant in the outer system. Notice how your own frame feels completely relaxed and stable, much like the sophisticated sensors of the spacecraft, as they prepare to begin their decade-long journey of discovery. The mission is equipped with a suite of revolutionary instruments designed to peer through the ice and measure the magnetic environment with unprecedented precision. This international effort represents a collective human desire to understand the potential for habitability in the outer solar system, pushing the boundaries of our technology and our imagination. The arrival of this mission will signal a new golden age for the study of the Moon, turning it from a subject of passing interest into the primary focus of an entire scientific era. This ambitious mission is thoughtfully designed to perform a series of complex orbital maneuvers that will eventually allow the spacecraft to enter orbit directly around the Moon itself. Entering into a stable orbit around a satellite other than our own Moon is a historic first, representing a monumental achievement in the history of human space exploration. It will allow the craft to stay in close proximity to the surface for years, providing a continuous and detailed look at the Moon's geography and its hidden, watery interior. By orbiting the Moon, the spacecraft can perform global surveys and monitor the subtle tidal changes in the crust with a level of accuracy that flybys simply cannot provide. It is a transition from being a visitor to becoming a permanent observer, a way for us to finally live among the ridges and grooves of this distant world through our robotic surrogates. This dedicated orbit is the ultimate expression of our commitment to uncovering the final secrets of the giant. ensuring that no canyon or crater remains unobserved. Surprisingly, the most exciting part of this future mission is its ability to see what lies completely hidden beneath the miles of unyielding frozen crust. Ground-penetrating radar will be used to send pulses of energy deep into the ice, allowing scientists to chart the exact depth and salinity of the hidden, global saltwater ocean. As these pulses bounce off the buried watery interface, they will provide us with a three-dimensional map of a world that has remained in total darkness for billions of years. This radar data will finally answer the most pressing questions about the moon's internal structure, confirming the thickness of the ice and the volume of the sea resting below. It will allow us to identify the places where the ice is thinnest and where the water might be closest to the surface, providing a roadmap for future landing missions. The ability to see through the ground transforms the moon from a surface into a volume, revealing the hidden architecture that sustains its complex and dynamic identity. Every single photograph and every byte of data sent back across the millions of miles of dark space helps to slowly and peacefully peel away the mysteries of this complex, freezing world. The history of the moon's exploration is a story of patient discovery, where each mission builds upon the work of those that came before to reveal a more complete and beautiful picture. This cumulative effort is a testament to the power of human curiosity and our relentless drive to understand the most remote corners of our celestial neighborhood. The quiet hum of our robotic explorers as they pass by the icy giant is a sound of triumph, a signal that we are finally bridging the gap between our world and the monarchs of the outer system. This journey of discovery is far from over, but we have already gathered enough pieces of the puzzle to see the moon as a masterpiece of planetary engineering. From its iron heart to its flimsy sky, the world of Ganymede continues to inspire us with its hidden depths and its silent, crystalline grandeur. Ganymede stands as a silent testament to the universe's quiet complexity, revealing that even in the freezing dark, worlds possess warm, churning hearts and hidden oceans waiting patiently to be understood. Ganymede stands as a silent testament to the universe's quiet complexity, revealing that even in the freezing dark, worlds possess warm, churning hearts and hidden oceans waiting patiently to be understood. This final realization ties together the immense scale of the giants and the microscopic molecular dances into one singular, harmonious existence. It is a world that mirrors our own curiosity, holding its secrets in a layered embrace of ice and time. Surprisingly, the body now begins to find its own state of orbital decay, settling into the gravitational pull of the bed with a heavy, honest weight. Notice how the toes begin to let go of the day, their small muscles unclenching like cooling crusts in the deep shadow of a quiet room. Gently, the arches of the feet and the ankles follow, surrendering their tension to the support of the soft sheets. Deep within the calves and the knees, a sense of absolute stillness begins to rise, moving upward like a slow, thermal current. This quiet room is a sanctuary where the shins and the thighs can finally rest, becoming as heavy and unmoving as a foundation of ancient rock. Now, the hips settle deeply into the mattress, finding a centered balance that requires no effort and no thought. Beneath you, the lower back and the spine now begin to unwind, each vertebra finding its place against the cushioning surface. A wave of relaxation washes over the stomach and the chest, moving with the slow, rhythmic pace of a long and deep breath. This physical surrender continues into the fingers and the palms, which curl naturally into a state of total, unburdened peace. If we were to look closer at the rhythm of the breath, we would see a perfect cycle of release that calms the mind and the heart. This quiet room is a sanctuary where the shoulders drop away from the neck, melting into the pillow as if they have no weight at all. A profound sense of comfort fills the throat and the jaw, allowing the facial muscles to smooth out into a mask of complete tranquility. Within this silence, the air in the room feels cool and still, providing a perfect contrast to the warmth of the blankets gathered around the frame. Each exhalation carries away the last remnants of the day, leaving the body in a state of pure, uninterrupted stillness. The fabric of the pillow is soft against the cheek, a gentle reminder that the environment is entirely secure and supportive. The heart beats with a slow and steady confidence, undisturbed by any external noise or flickering light. Everything is exactly as it should be in this moment of total and absolute surrender to the night. Silence now fills every corner of the room, acting as a thick and comforting blanket that muffles the outside world. Deep within this deep and heavy peace, the body finds its natural state of being when it is finally allowed to let go. The darkness is a soft and welcoming friend, pulling the consciousness down into the quiet depths of a long and healing slumber. Every muscle is loose, every nerve is calm, and the entire self is ready to drift away into the long dark hours of the coming morning. And now, 101 wonders are resting with you. Sleep now, good night,